As a freelance manga artist working from his home in Tokyo, he makes a living creating art and animation for popular games, but he's tired of living that way. The express train network had finally reached his home village, so he decided to move there and start a new life. Until now, he had been forced to paint to make ends meet, but he liked working in his own garden much better. He was very happy with his new, quiet, and peaceful life. The man folded his arms across his chest and thought about what was happening right now. The man didn't understand anything, so he sat silently and thought. The man remembers his name, age, and where he lives. He had some kind of accident while gathering herbs in the mountains, although it does not appear that his body was damaged in any way. The man scratches his head and thinks about this nonsense. The area is completely flat, so these are not mountains, but there are no such places near his house. He can't just chill out here. He'll die soon. There's nothing here, so the only thing missing is to run into a bear. His throat is dry, and there's nothing in his pockets that could be useful. When he gets hungry, he'll have no food, no water, nothing at all. There are some mushrooms growing here, of course, but he's never seen anything like them. At this rate, he'll be a corpse. That's pretty bad. We need to get out of this forest, find the nearest village or something. Suddenly, the man notices a skeleton in armor with a sword stuck into it. The man wonders what happened here, and he realizes that it is not good that he found a corpse. He is very sorry about the death of the skeleton, but now he is in a difficult situation, so he asks permission to search the skeleton's bag. After some time, the man finds a dagger and a ring in the bag. He got the weapon, but now the biggest problem is food. Then the man turns his attention to the skeleton's armor and tries to figure out what's wrong with this armor. No matter how you look at it, this is real metal armor because there are even traces of damage and repair. The man understands that this is a trap and someone is hunting for his head. But why would anyone need an unemployed middle-aged man from the countryside? Even if this is some kind of scam, he has no money. The man stretches out his hand and tries to open his status. He understands that a panel should appear. Suddenly, a status bar appears in front of the man. He realizes that it actually worked. He reads the information in his window. However, the man is surprised where his health level, mana, skills, and not even spells. And then he tries to understand what the hell is Shangri-La. Of all this, he only knows Shangri-La Online Store. Then the man tenses up and clicks on the word Shangri-La Online Store. Suddenly another window appears. The man realizes that this is indeed the site he used so often. The main page of Shangri-La opens to him. Shangri-La is an all-inclusive online store that sells everything from books and food to clothing, toys, new and used cars and trucks, and even heavy industrial equipment. They really do have it all. He wonders if he actually has a skill like that, which is a bit of a cheat. The man then clicks on the inventory label and a new window opens with the inventory. The man says that since it is an inventory, it means that you can put things in it. Then the young man notices a sword lying next to the skeleton. He touches the inventory window with this sword, and suddenly the sword is absorbed into the inventory window. The man is surprised that the sword was sucked in. He then looks at the inventory window, where a rusty sword appears in the amount of 1 piece. The man then clicks on the word rusty sword, and suddenly another window appears, giving him a choice: take the sword or throw it away. The man presses the sword pickup function. The next moment, a rusty sword appears right in his hand. The man is happy and says that it is very convenient. Then he decides to try pressing the trash button. The next moment, a rusty sword appears in the trash menu. The man says that the sword moved here. Then Kenichi, the main character, noticed some unusual button with a spiral. Then a new window appeared, asking the protagonist if he really wanted to delete these objects. Kenichi thought that this meant it was some kind of computer. He could probably keep things here for a while until they were deleted automatically. He needs to find out how many objects he can fit inside. But he at least has a rough idea of how it works. He wonders if it's really okay for him to use this power, because there's a catch. If he just accepts it, will someone demand payment for it? He says that although if he is afraid to use the strange power, he will end up like this skeleton. He shouldn't worry about it too much. It's better to use it while he can. A man goes to an online store and adds a pack of secret buns and 3 cartons of milk to his cart. The man is surprised that he needs 2,500 yen. He presses the buy button, but a notification appears that the man does not have enough funds. Kenichi is surprised that he has no money, Although it makes sense, he started out penniless. He doesn't understand what to do now. He presses the button to replenish funds. Another window appears, but there is nothing in it. Kenichi said that the window wants him to put money in there, but he doesn't have any. The man understands that his brain just stops from hunger. Kenichi tries to move the rusty sword to the replenishment window, but he can't. Suddenly, a window appears asking if the man really wants to sell these objects. The man realizes that he can even sell the things. He gives a rusty sword, and on the screen it says that the rusty sword will cost 100,000 yen. The man realizes that this is a lot. He replenishes his balance and says that if this is true, then he no longer needs to worry about food. The man buys himself food for 2,500 yen. Suddenly, food appears out of thin air. The man says that he needs to eat before thinking about anything else. After the meal, the man bought one shovel for 2,000 yen. Kenichi buried the skeleton and put a cross made of wooden sticks. After the deed, he prayed for the peace of the deceased. He thinks about giving credit. He laid out only because he took from him. Since he has an online store, he should check a few things. He buys compact gas canisters, 3 for 300 yen, clean water for 1,200 yen, a portable gas stove and a saucepan with a lid. After some time, Kenichi buys milk for food, 100 pieces for 500 yen, and also instant ramen, 12 pieces for 2,500 yen. The man prepares ramen and says that it is the taste of modern civilization. The man starts eating and says it's good. Curry is still good, even in other worlds. He then says that the food and money will eventually run out, so he needs to find a settlement and make money. Then he'll buy things from the Shangri-La and sell them at higher prices. He wonders if that will work. Then the man realizes that it is time to get ready and find a way out of this forest. Suddenly, he is surrounded by wild animals. The smell of food spread for kilometers. Of course, it will attract wild animals. The young man quickly starts looking for weapons and wonders what kind of weapons he can buy. He sees a bow, but immediately says that he has never held one in his life. Then he finds the right lot and says that he needs to try it. A man buys fireworks and lights them on a gas stove, then throws them straight at the monsters. The fireworks explode. Then the man picks up a slingshot. At that moment, a monster runs at him, but the young man immediately fires a projectile from the slingshot. The man neutralizes one monster, which turns around and runs into the forest. Kenichi then loads up 2 more projectiles to fire at the remaining wolves. Finally, the wolves run away. Kenichi falls to the ground in sighs. He says that it is too dangerous to stay here because someday they will come back. He then looks into the gap in the forest and realizes that he seems to have finally found the exit. Even after leaving the forest, Kenichi has to make his way through this tall grass. He thinks that the best option is to scout out the surrounding area. A man buys a ladder for 2,500 yen and a telescope for 1,000 yen. Kenichi thinks it's a bit pricey. He stands on the ladder and looks through the telescope, through which he sees the walls of a city. He can also clearly see the movements of people. From here, he can easily get into the city. If he goes straight here, he will come to the road straight into the city. This is not good. He has already spent almost half of all his money. He wonders if he should buy some spices. 100 grams of spices cost 400 chen, and perhaps he could make a good profit selling them in town for silver or gold. He wonders if there is an inventory here that notices it and says that it is just like an RPG. Suddenly, he hears someone knocking. Kenichi is called by a young man riding a cart and asks him if he is really a traveler and is heading to Dalia. The man is surprised that he understands the language of the locals. Kenichi replies that he is grateful for the man's offer, but he has no money now, and he thinks the city is called Dalia. The young man replies that the man is probably having a hard time, but Dalia is just a stone's throw away, so he will not take money from him. Kenichi gets into the carriage. The heroes get acquainted. Fuyo says that Kenichi has a strange name. He asks Kenichi if he really left his father's house and came here to trade. The man smiles and says that the boy hit the nail on the head. Fuyo turns to the man and says that if he came to trade, then why is he empty-handed, and does he really have the inventory skill? Kenichi was surprised and thought it was a bit unexpected that they already knew about the inventory. Fuyo asks how the man hasn't become a merchant yet if he has a skill like inventory. Kenichi says he's still working as a farmer. That's a lie. He says that while they're together, there's something he wants to ask. Kenichi later learned a lot about how business is done in this world. It seems that in order to sell something, he needs to register with the Merchant Guild. The registration fee is 1 silver coin, although he doesn't know how much yen that is yet. After some time, the man arrives in the city of Dalia. He helps Fuyo unload his cart. Fuyo thanks the man for his help and says that he will become a great merchant someday, but not now. Fuyo then points out in which direction the inn and guild are. The man thanks him, and then tells him that he is a good guy and gives him a pouch in gratitude. Fuyo opens the bag and says that these are spices. He turns to Kenichi and says that he must be joking, giving away such a luxurious product. He says that he will pay him right away. Kenichi refuses. Fuyo asks him to slow down and says that merchants like cheap goods but never take anything for free. Then asks the man if he knows why. Kenichi replies that it is because nothing is more valuable than what you get for free. Fuyo agrees. He says that if the man does not accept the money, he will not be able to accept anything either. He gives him 2 silver and 6 bronze coins. The man reflects that the rate of gold to silver is 4 silver coins to 1 gold coin. Now he has a good idea of the concept of this world, if it were not for the rumors. He thinks that there is some coalition that has monopolized the spice market. It seems that there will be problems at the beginning, but first he needs to establish a support base. Then he arrives at some hotel and realizes that it seems that he has come to the right place. A girl greets him and asks if the man needs a room or wants to have lunch. Kenichi realizes that the girl is very nice. The girl says that a room with food will cost the man 1 silver coin and the room itself costs 3 bronze coins. The man says he just needs a room. The man asks if the girl could be the owner's daughter. The girl says she just works there. Then she asks if the boy really came looking for a supplier or if he was looking for a part-time job. The man says that he actually came to become a merchant. The girl says that then he should at least be able to read, write, and count. The man thinks about how he could forget about that. Then he takes out a book and says that these are some of the basic skills if a man wants to register with the Merchant Guild. Then the girl says that if they have 4 bags, each containing 12 apples, how many apples will there be in the bags? Kenichi replies that there will be 48. The girl says that this is very cool and the man can really count. She asks the man his name, and Kenichi says his name. The girl says that her name is Aelia and that she is very pleased to meet the man. Then the man asks Aelia if he can ask her for a favor. He asks the girl to teach him to read and write. In return, he will give her some exotic treats. The girl starts beaming and asks if he will really give her sweet treats. After a while, the man buys a wooden box with fruit bears worth 300 yen. The girl says that her mouth is very pleased with such sweet treats. Eating these sweets, she feels like a noblewoman. The man asks if there really is a nobility here. The girl agrees and says that it is true, but it is better not to mess with them. If they catch a man with these sweets, they will immediately confiscate them. He says that this is quite problematic. Then he asks the girl if she will teach him how to read and write. He says that paper is probably expensive, so he will give her his own. The girl agrees. Then the man buys 5 pieces of printing paper for 500 yen. The girl said that she was just about to take money from the boy for the paper. Kenichi understands that it is better not to let down his guard with her, so let the girl use his paper. Kenichi thinks that the alphabet isn't that different, so it should be fine. It's even similar to Romaji. The numbers are still written in decimal notation, much like Arabic. In that case, it shouldn't be too hard for him to remember all of this. Aelia said that she thought that Mr. Kenichi could not write or read. He said that this language is very similar to his native language. Aelia replied that then there would be no problem with registering with the guild. The man turned to Aelia and said that she herself was quite literate. She was well suited to the role of a merchant. The girl looks at the young man and asks if she knows what is most important in business. The man says it's a restocking. Aelia says that's the right answer. Take food, lamps, etc., for example. She has no idea where to buy them. However, in the case of Mr. Kenichi, she thinks there will be no problem. Maybe she should try to become his favorite. The man replies that with an old man like him, she can forget about it, because he is old enough to be her father. Aelia smiles and says that she doesn't have a father. The man apologizes to her. Aelia says that everything is fine and he knows that Kenichi is a good person. The man then takes a pen and paper and asks Aelia to sit down for exactly 1 second. The girl is surprised and then sits down. He has drawn her portrait. The girl says that it is very cool and that the man draws very well, and then asks him if he can be an aristocrat. The man thinks that she did not expect such a strong reaction. Then the girl looks at Kenichi, smiles, and suddenly takes off her dress. Kenichi is very surprised. He starts screaming and asks the girl what she is doing. Aelia replies that the man treated her to expensive sweets and painted her portrait, and is it fair that only she gets everything? Kenichi is surprised and wonders if it's normal to do this kind of thing right after teleporting to another world. The heroes are sitting at the table. Is it really possible to do such things almost immediately after entering another world? The man turned to Aelia and asked what he was going to do. The girl told Kenichi that he had given a lot. The man asked, so what? It didn't mean he could get violent. The next morning, Kenichi was depressed because it happened. He bangs his head against the wall and tries to figure out what he's doing with a young girl. At that moment, Aelia asks what she's eating. It's very crunchy, and from a young girl it's so sweet and delicious. He thinks that they'll buy that too. The girl was eating a granule, 1 pack for 540 yen, and milk for 250 yen. The man says that it does use sugar and fruit, but no one will buy it for a high price, and he doesn't want to deal with aristocrats. Aelia says that it's still very tasty. Kenichi thought about how Aelia looks like an 18-year-old girl when she eats. Then he opens his status and says that he completely forgot about paying for the night. By the way, he noticed something while he was talking to her. It seems that she does not see his status bar. She is visible only to Kenichi. At this point, Aelia asks the man if he means payment for the night's lodging. The man then asks the girl if she can tell him about the local coins. Aelia agrees. If we compare Aelia's words and the examples of the price of the past world, it turns out that 1 night here costs 3,000 yen. The man leaves the hotel and says that yesterday he also had to use money, so they may soon run out. He needs to find a job quickly, otherwise he's finished. Kenichi realizes that he will have to try to join the merchant guild. Thus, the young man comes to the guild. He goes inside and sees several people. One man asks a guild employee to lend him money, but the employee says apologetically that he can't lend them money. The man then goes to the front desk. The receptionist girl greets him and asks Kenichi what his reason is. Kenichi sits down and says that he would like to join the guild. The girl says that she understands the man, and then hands him a sheet of paper and a piece of paper, an ASIF taper, and asks him to fill out these papers. As for the fee for joining, it will cost 1 silver coin. Kenichi realizes that 50,000 yen is certainly a burden on his wallet. The man asks the girl if he can pay in installments. The girl agrees. The man thinks that paying in 10 installments is a blessing. Then, he looks at the application form, which has to be filled out by hand, so they haven't learned to type in this world yet. Name, age, etc. Kenichi will give Dalia as his birthplace, since he doesn't know any other places. Then Kenichi sees the arithmetic examples. He is surprised because the whole text consists of addition and multiplication. Then he completes the text and hands it over to the receptionist. Kenichi thinks that everything went so easily. Then the receptionist comes back and apologizes to the boy for the wait. She gives the man confirmation that he has joined the guild. Kenichi takes the stone in his hands and remembers Fuyo with the same stone. The girl adds that he must wear it in a visible place while working as a merchant. She also says that the registration is now complete. Kenichi thinks that he can now trade without any problems. Then he turns to the girl, apologizing, and asks where their market is. After some time, the man comes to the right place. He thinks that it is very important to look around the market. There is no fish that cannot be stored. Fruits, vegetables, and even precious stones and many other things. Everything is together, which is very cool. Kenichi goes to a shop selling paper. He thinks that for 1 darkened sheet of paper, 1 copper coin. Then Kenichi goes to another shop where a girl sells plates and says that with them you can feel like a nobleman. Kenichi passes a shop with knives. The man says that this knife can cut almost anything. Considering that the plates with patterns are gathering dust on the shelves, only common people come here, and they cannot afford to buy more expensive things. Suddenly, his thoughts are distracted by a girl who offers the man to buy beautiful fruits of 3 colors. Anis asks him if he would like to buy one. 1 pile of 10 costs 1 copper coin. Kenichi says he wants to try all kinds, so he asks the girl to wrap all 3 kinds for him in 3 pieces. The girl agrees and then gives him a bag of fruit. Kenichi thinks that he bought what he bought, but he does not know what these fruits are called. They are red, green, and yellow. According to the inventory, they are called apple and appleseed. After some time, he brings these fruits to Aelia. The girl says that these are apples. The girl thanks the man for the fruit. They are sweet and very tasty. Kenichi is surprised that there are so many people in the hotel. The man remembers the price of the apple and realizes that he does not think it is the apple Aelia was talking about. The man gets up from the table and says that he will return to his room soon. Aelia asks Kenichi if he was really able to join the guild. The man waves the proof that he joined the guild. Aelia was happy, and all the visitors were happy that the girl was in a good mood. After some time, the young man was in his room. He bought 1 robe for 60 yen. He learned about the situation in the market, and from tomorrow he will begin to prepare for trading. His goal is to invest 3,000 yen and receive 10,000 yen. It is not necessary to receive mountains of money. The main thing is to have enough to buy on the Shangri-La website. That is why the most important thing is to lead a measured life in another world. He decides to see if he can do it. The next morning, Aelia bursts into Kenichi's room and asks him what all the fuss is about and what he's doing. Kenichi says he's setting up a stall. The girl was surprised that Kenichi was also a builder. Kenichi thought that it was good that he split the registration fee and was able to buy materials with the remaining money. He bought a saw, a screwdriver, boards, logs, ropes, fiber cloth, hemp, etc. The man said that he damaged the room and he would clean up the sawdust later. Then the man tied the shelf. He said that he had made the counter and it remained to decide what he would sell. Suddenly, the girl notices the clothespins and asks what they are, and she wants them too. She says that they use the same thing to hold the laundry after washing. Kenichi agrees and asks if they have something similar. Aelia agrees and says that she only knows of those made from thin branches. They are broken and tied with a rope, but they fall down immediately. She asks if a man will try it. Kenichi is surprised and wonders if he can really rise from this. The inventory includes a set of plates with and without a pattern. Knife A, knife B, a handkerchief with a small pattern, and a handkerchief with gold embroidery. He has prepared what he can sell on the Shangri-La website. This time he will try to sell it, but he still needs to find a place. Then he sees a free place and asks the woman sitting next to him if it is occupied. The woman tells the young man that he can settle in here. Then he takes the counter out of the inventory. The woman calls the young man and asks if he really has an inventory since he got the thing out of nowhere. The young man agrees and says that although it is small, she envies him since he has to carry things in his hands. Then she looks at the things and says that the man has good things. She turns to the young man and asks if these are used to fasten underwear. The woman asks the man how much they cost. Kenichi replies that 2 clothespins cost 1 copper coin, that is, 1,000 yen. The woman asks for 6. Kenichi is surprised and asks the woman if she really will take it. The woman agrees and says that there is no rule anywhere that prohibits buying from neighbors. After a while, Kenichi sold 30 clothespins before lunch and earned 15,000 yen. He thought it would be enough to sell 10,000 yen a day, but it seemed he could only live on clothespins. He thought that if they continued to buy, other merchants will start making something similar, so he will have to come up with something. Suddenly, a man with a bag and a sword approaches Kenichi and asks Kenichi if he can show him the knife. Kenichi realizes that he has a sword on his belt, but lacks armor. But most likely this guy is a warrior or something. The young man takes the knife in his hands and begins to examine it. Kenichi says that this knife is worth 2 silver coins, that is, 100,000 yen. The young man has never seen such a beautiful blade, so he cannot object. However, he would like a bigger knife. The man says that if he wants a big one, he can only offer one like this. He buys a knife with a wide blade which costs 25,000 yen. The young man is very surprised and asks how much it will cost. Kenichi says that it cost 1 gold coin, that is 200,000 yen. The young man shrank and said that it was expensive, but he was very handsome. Kenichi thinks that the young man seems to be hesitating, but he can't lower the price. His heart sinks, but he has to take it from the buyer, who can pay a lot. The boy sighs and says he is buying it. Kenichi says it is an excellent choice. The boy can get a whetstone as a gift. The man points to 2 stones. The brown one is coarser and the green one is finer. The boy says they seem comfortable. Kenichi thanks the boy for his purchase. After some time, the young man comes to the hotel. He gives Aelia money for 5 nights. The girl asks if the young man really earned it. Kenichi agrees. Aelia notices that he has changed his clothes. After some time, the young man sits in his room and reads books. He says that he has money, changed his clothes, but wants to take a hot bath. They say that the bath here is only available to the royal family and the court. Then he turns on the online store in the status window and clicks on the search bar to find a steel barrel. The man is surprised that they even sell a barrel here. If you fill it with water from the river and then heat it over a fire, it should work. If this continues, you should find a more profitable way to sell goods. Then he thinks about jewelry. Silver is quite expensive in this world. The next day, after much thought, he hangs up necklaces, brooches, etc. in his shop. 5 pieces he sells for 10,000 yen. He thinks that they are without diamonds and crystals, but polished zircon should also build well. He hopes that this will interest women's hearts. Kenichi then notices a girl who is an anthropomorph. Usually women here wear long skirts, but this girl has woolen clothes on top, so she must be hot. Then she turns sharply to the boy, and Kenichi realizes that he must have been looking at her for a long time. Suddenly, the girl appears right in front of the boy and says that he smells of spices. The boy realizes that the smell is from yesterday's curry. The girl says that if the man has spices with him, she will buy them. Kenichi replies that he has them, but he does not sell them. He tries to explain what will happen if he starts throwing spices, but a woman next to him interrupts and says that it's true. If the coalition notices him, he will be in trouble. The girl leaves upset. Kenichi mentally apologizes to her and thinks that he doesn't want the spice monopolists to set their sights on him. A girl in a maid uniform interrupts him and asks the man to give her 100 clothespins. Kenichi is very surprised and says that they will cost 1 silver. The girl replies that they will be used in the mansion, so she was given money to take with her. Then she notices the jewelry. She asks if it is a diamond. The boy explains that it is polished glass, but he thinks that it is actually zircon. The girl says that it is still not expensive. Kenichi says that if she likes the jewelry, he can put it aside for the girl, although not many people will be able to buy it. The girl agrees and then thinks about it. After a while, she leaves with a bag of clothespins. After a while, Kenichi thinks he's thought enough for today. He's even asked to put the necklace aside. Suddenly, tall men in the form of animals approach him. They turn to him and ask if the man could sell them spices. Kenichi realized that they were friends of the anthropomorphic cat. Kenichi says that this will not do. If dangerous people have their eye on him, he will no longer be able to trade here. Suddenly, these evil-looking men knelt down and asked the man for mercy. Kenichi was surprised and told them that there was no need to bow because it was somehow even awkward. Local residents drew attention to this and said that anthropomorphs should not put pressure on the young man because he also has his own life. Then Kenichi sighed. They gathered in a circle and the young man began to whisper to them that he could not sell them spices, but he could treat them to food with spices outside the city. They asked if this was really possible. The man said it was only this once. Kenichi's neighbor heard them and said that she would not refuse the man's food either. The anthropomorphic man then grabbed the woman and Kenichi and ran with them, saying that there was not a minute to lose. Then they come to the riverbank. Kenichi takes out a table, cutlery, and food. Kenichi rolls up his sleeves and says that it is time to cook. The girl asked if the young man really got everything out of nowhere using the inventory. The men were surprised, as they were seeing something like this for the first time. The man agreed. The woman says that she will help the man. Kenichi thanks the woman and tells the woman to cut these vegetables as she likes. He also says that all the ingredients are edible, so she doesn't have to worry. The woman is surprised by the color, and Kenichi says that the woman is holding a carrot. Then time passed. The anthropomorphic girl stirred the broth. The men drooled. Kenichi fried vegetables in a frying pan. The young man said that fried vegetables and meat with curry seasoning along with buns and soup. The men began to eat and asked why it was so delicious because they had never eaten anything like it. A bun with soup is also a union. The woman said that at first she was skeptical when she saw the unseen vegetables, but it was delicious. The man wished everyone a bon appetit. After such a meal, one still wants to drink something stronger. The woman began to say that the men should at least be a little more modest. The man says that since they are having so much fun, he will give them some drinks, but they must promise not to tell anyone about today. The man says he will drink juice. The woman says he is spoiling them too much. After a while, Kenichi says that they have not met yet. He gives his name. The men introduce themselves as Nyakuro, Nyarmaro, and Nyanji, and the girl's name is Maiater. The woman says her name is Anima. So they spent a pleasant evening, and then they all ran off to swim together. Anima and Kenichi stayed on the shore, so they continued to have fun. Then everyone went to bed. Suddenly, Kenichi felt someone crawling under his blanket. Mir said that she was so warm, but Kenichi said that he was more warm here. Then he turns his attention to the Shangri-La shop and thinks that he doesn't know how this panel works, but even in the dark he can clearly see it. But the light from it doesn't illuminate the area. So, in reality, the panel doesn't exist. He also thinks not only about this panel, but also about where all the things come from. There is no status or level indicated there. The more he thinks about this ability, the more mysterious it becomes. But for today, he thinks that's enough thinking. The next morning, the young man wakes up and yawns. Ki and Anima arrive at the market. The man thinks they were a bit noisy yesterday. Anima wishes the man good morning and also points out that the man looks sleepy. A man tells a woman that she drank a lot last night and then asks how she is feeling. Anima replies that she is fine and then asks how the young man is feeling. The man says that he is feeling fine too. This morning, the young man returned to the hotel. Aelia turned to Kenichi and asked the man where he had been today. Kenichi replied that he had been drinking with the anthropomorphs. Aelia said that since there was an opportunity to walk with anthropomorphic girls, he could walk with her too. The man replied that he was not interested in such girls. Aelia points to the man's shoulder where Miri's fur was. Aelia turned around and left. Kenichi thought that the girl seemed very angry. Moreover, she was not needed for his measured life which he strived for. Then he hears a girl's voice, who turns to Margaret and asks if this is the shop the girl was talking about. Margaret tells the lady that it is. Kenichi saw the maid who recently bought 100 clothespins from him. He saw a girl with expressive eyes and an intelligent look. Straight golden hair and in good clothes. She definitely looks like a girl from a rich family. Kenichi asked the maid if she had come to pick up the goods that had been put aside. The maid girl agreed. She gives him money, and the man gives her the jewelry. The maid thanks the man and then approaches the mistress. The girl is surprised and asks if it is a diamond. The maid says that according to the seller, it is ordinary glass. Kenichi says it's polished glass, then asks if there could be something wrong with the decoration. The girl asks the man if he has any more jewelry and if he can show him any more. The man agrees and takes out the jewelry from his inventory. The girl is surprised that he has such a skill. Kenichi agrees and says that it is indeed an inventory, and he thinks that everything came straight from Shangri-La. The girl thinks and says that she has one request for the man. Kenichi says that he listens to the girl. The girl replies that her name is Premura, and she is the eldest daughter of the head of the Maru Trading Company. Kenichi thinks about Maru Trading Company and then says that he is very pleased to meet the girl and gives his name. Premura apologizes for the surprise and asks the man if he could meet her father. Kenichi realizes that this is very unexpected and then asks her if she knows anything about the Maru Trading Company. Anima replies that it is one of the leading trading firms in the city. The youth asks what often comes up in conversations: are there dangerous people coming in? Anima replies that Maru only deals with honest trade. Kenichi thinks that it doesn't seem like such a bad idea. If they are the hosts, then they are the face of this city. It might not be a bad idea to form a bond with them. He asks the girl if they should go right now. Premura says that today father is in the palace, so it is better for them to come during the day. The man answered that he understood. Suddenly, Premura bows and asks the man to forgive her for asking him to put his affairs aside. Kenichi realized that Premura was the daughter of the head of a large trading company, but she was very polite to him, a newbie who could easily be blown away from this place. Judging by her, her father was probably a good person too. After some time, they return to the palace. The man gets into the carriage and says that he has never ridden in such a beautiful carriage before. Premura says that the carriages of aristocrats are even more beautiful. She says that as soon as she saw the clothespins purchased from the young man, She asked a craftsman she knew to make the same ones. However, it was not possible to establish production at all. That's how it is. To make a product with smoothly touching working surfaces, a high level of processing technology is required, like, for example, tweezers. He does not think that in this world they have invented extrusion technology, so they will have to forge each spring by hand. It is problematic to make clothespins at home in the workshop. At first glance, they seem simple, but high technology is needed to make them. Premura said that their master said the same. Then she added that it seemed that they had arrived. They enter a beautiful mansion and walk through a huge courtyard. After some time, the man sat on the sofa and thought about how this was a class society. He notices the expensive items and thinks about selling them on Shangri-La. His thoughts are interrupted by Premura, who tells the man that her father is ready to meet them. After a while, he meets Premura's father. The man thanks Kenichi for coming to see them. He introduces himself to Maru and his company. Kenichi says it's nice to meet him. He came at his daughter's request. His name is Kenichi, and he hopes this isn't the last time they see each other. The man tells Kenichi that he's very polite, and he's also glad to meet him. Then Premura starts whispering something in her father's ear. The man asks Kenichi if he really has an inventory. The boy agrees and says that his is not very big. The man puts his finger up and says that he has one too. Then suddenly a statue appears on the table. Kenichi turns to Maru and says that he has an inventory too. Maru replied that it was thanks to him that he was able to raise the company to such a high level. Kenichi said that it was commendable, since he used the inventory as a vegetable storage facility. Maru replied that Kenichi did that in vain. Kenichi then changed the subject and asked the man why he had called him. Maru and Premura were silent for a while. Maru smiled and asked if he could directly speak to them, if Kenichi could supply them with goods in bulk. Kenichi replied that he understood. Judging by Maru's daughter, his goods, if he chose the right buyer, could be sold for even more. In that case, wouldn't it be better for them to buy his goods at a cheap price and then sell them at a high price? Maru nodded and said that if he did that, it would be as soon as the man found out about it. Kenichi replies that he will definitely stop selling silver jewelry. Maru replied that competitors would probably come and offer him a better deal. The immediate benefit would blind the eyes and the good deal would not be noticed. For a merchant, this is the stupidest decision. The man says he's willing to pay 5 times the price and then asks Kenichi if he's okay with it. The man agrees right away. Maru was about to say it was difficult and then asks Kenichi if he's sure. Kenichi thinks buying something for 2,000 or 3,000 yen and selling it for tens of thousands is just fine for him. If everything works out, then by selling just 2 or 3 silver ornaments, he will be able to live comfortably, but he will still be engaged in trade. Maru extends his hand to Kenichi and says that they have agreed then. Then they shake hands. Thus, by signing a contract for the wholesale sale of clothespins and jewelry, Kenichi entered into a deal with the Maru Trading Company. The company also sells jewelry with zirconium processed to look like a diamond, or flowed to look like quartz. However, the processing technology is still quite low, so glass or zirconium is more popular than real gemstones. The total amount in the wallet for Shangri-La has reached 7 figures. With money, he will be able to lead a measured life. Kenichi thinks that this is great. Then he points to the map and says that they have decided to make a base in the forest. The townspeople are wary of his dangerous place. Surely he was also attacked by a monster, and they will probably think that he has gone crazy. But he doesn't plan to go deeper than 200 meters, it shouldn't be too dangerous. He wants to live a quiet and unhurried life. Frozen food and fast food. He needs familiar food. In the future, he wants to use electrical appliances. It will be better if no one sees. Once he finds a place, he will cut down the trees and free her. Some kind of house will need to be built. The man is then surprised when he sees a log house in an online store that requires assembly. After some time, the young man was mowing the grass with a lawnmower. She worked on gasoline 1 piece for 30,000 yen. The man decided to build a house in the forest and begin to realize his quiet life in another world. He finally cleared the road. It was surrounded by tall grass, so he could ride his bike. Then he had to lay gravel. Gas for the lawnmower. More expensive than usual, but what can you do since they don't sell gas here? Then he thinks it will do. Then he decides to buy a chainsaw for 30,000 yen. The main character is sawing logs. The next thing he has to do is to provide a place for the log house. He makes a triangular cut and a larger one on the side where he wants to fell the tree. Then you need to carefully drive in the wedge. Then the young man realizes that he needs to remove all the fallen logs. He thinks about how big he can fit something into the inventory. It seems like the log doesn't fit in this form, and then he thinks about dividing the log into 10-meter pieces. Then such a log is placed in the inventory. The young man understands that logs can be turned into firewood. If a 10-meter thing fits, then most objects will fit. Then Kenichi looks around and tries to understand that all that's left is to dig up these big stumps. They need to be split with a chainsaw and dug out in sections. Kenichi screams that it's too heavy. He buys an excavator. The young man thinks it's time for bigger machines, so he calls for an excavator. He had to buy an excavator for 120,000 yen to finish the job. Even though it had been used before and rust was showing, the main thing for him was that he wouldn't get tired. He climbs into the cabin and thinks about trying it out. A man starts his car and thinks he needs diesel. All the heavy machinery runs on diesel. He opens a Shangri-La store and searches for diesel fuel, but there is none. He finds the auxiliary substance is sold, but kerosene is. The substance that converts kerosene into diesel fuel. Lighting kerosene is sold in the camping goods section. Filtered kerosene, when burned, leaves no soot and does not smoke. Used in kerosene lamps. 1 liter for 1,800 yen, but there is no choice. Whale oil on the market is even more expensive. He wonders if it really works. Then he decides to try it on this. He calls for a diesel generator. He often used a generator, but never a diesel one. It was foreign made, so he couldn't read the instructions. First, he would fill it with fuel and try to start it. The machine started working. Everything works. The man tried to turn on the bulbs, and they light up, but due to strong voltage drops, it is not suitable for home use. And it is also noisy. Now he will be able to use the excavator. Tomorrow he goes to the city. The man notices dirt on his body. The man was thinking about taking a bath, although he could also wash in the river. He came to the hotel and said good morning to Aelia. The girl asked the man where he had been. The man said that he had been preparing a place for a house in the forest. He decided to say goodbye one last time. Aelia was very surprised. It is not surprising that Aelia is surprised. They have something like a taboo. It is forbidden to live in the forest. Aelia asked the young man if he was serious. Kenichi says that's true. An infrared flashlight and an audible alarm, at least he took some measures. In the forest, they simply ate him. The man says that he is more worried about the insects. Aelia told the man that maybe he should buy a magic stone against insects. No smell and mosquitoes won't fly in. Kenichi asked about the magic stone and asked where it was sold. Aelia said it was sold in a hardware store near the market. Suddenly the man was asked what he was looking for. An older man approached him and said that he had not seen Kenichi before. Kenichi said that he had recently opened a stall at the market, so he and the man were colleagues. The man said that he could pay a good amount for an interesting foreign thing. Kenichi asks the man if he could sell him a magic stone against insects. He would be happy to give a discount on them, and then hands over oranges. The man says he has never seen these fruits. The magic stone builds 2 silver coins, but for Kenichi, it will make a discount. Kenichi realizes that it will cost about 100,000 yen. He thanks the merchant, so the man was able to buy it cheaper from his grandfather at the hardware store. Kenichi agreed and thanked him. Anama said he has good connections in this city. He is like a walking encyclopedia. Befriending him will only get him more. Then Kenichi sees a newspaper in the woman's hands. He asks about those in the photograph. Anima says that they are not much talked about here. But 60 kilometers away in the mountains, the dreaded group Shaga is raging. Kenichi asks if they are bandits. Anima agrees and says that they are a happy group of bandits. They spend the night in the ruins of an old castle and lay waste to nearby villages and towns. Kenichi then puts things in the inventory. Anima asks the man if he is closing. He looks at the money and realizes that the profit is 20,000 yen and some change. Because the Maru Trading Company store started selling clothespins, people don't buy so many of them anymore. The next day, the man calls for an excavator. Today is the day he will work with the excavator. Now that's what he understands as power. However, moreover, it is so exciting to drive a big machine. He is even ready to dig up everything in the area. He needs to carefully prepare the site for the house. To mark the building correctly, it is necessary to level the ground. However, after buying such an expensive thing as an excavator, the balance of the wallet began to burst at the seams. In that case, he needs to replenish it somehow. After some time, he comes to Maru's palace. Premura greets Kenichi and says that they were waiting for him. The girl says that many customers want to buy the man's goods. He says that he would be glad to provide more, but they are valuable, so it is quite difficult to get them. Premura says that she understands that such good things are not so easy to get. Then they come to Maru's office. The man lays out on the table the goods of their inventory, for example, sugar in a burial urn, and necklaces with a stone, bracelets, and so on. Premura was surprised and said that one bracelet here was simply beautiful. She asked her father to buy it. Maru said that there was nothing to be done with the girl. If the girl took everything, there would be nothing left for the buyers. The man then succumbs to his daughter's charms and asks Kenichi how much the bracelet costs. The man realizes that Maru seems weak in the face of his daughter's requests. Kenichi says it is gold in color, but only plated. The girl asks again and says that it is coated with a layer of gold using mercury. Kenichi replies that the girl is good at this. In fact, it's not mercury, but electric current. The girl asks why make it so complicated and that the master is a rather specific person. Kenichi then asks about sugar. Maru says that sugar and salt are controlled by the government, so he won't be able to buy it. Kenichi thought that he understood that sugar was a valuable commodity, so he bought it. But he didn't know that there would be such an obstacle in front of him. Shangri-La cost 200 yen per kilogram, and he thought that there would be a good profit. Maru says that, however, cameo jewelry is very popular among the nobility. He asks to see more jewelry for Kenichi and he agrees. After some time, the amount he got from the deal with Maru's company is 15 gold coins, or 3 million yen. With this, he will buy a log house and stop living in a tent. He buys the house for 1,700,000 yen. The next moment, a pile of boards appears right behind Kenichi. The man turns around and is very surprised. He doesn't understand what this whole mountain is and why everything is disassembled. He goes into a Shangri-La store to see what's wrong. The man sees his log house, which needs to be assembled. Kenichi screams and understands that everything is right and he will have to build the house himself. Now it is clear to him why the house is so cheap. He himself thought that for such a good house its price is too small. But what should he do with all this mountain now? He certainly looked for a lot of information, but he certainly couldn't handle building the rafters himself. Then the man sits and sighs. Kenichi remembers that he has an excavator. He takes the instructions in his hands and realizes that the house is built on thin boards that are attached to each other, and there are no beams or posts. Kenichi understands that he has already gone too far. He needs to finish the job. Moreover, the money will not be returned now. Then he sees a fallen glass that breaks. Finally, he started building the house. In between opening my shop, 1 week passed. Then another week passed. The house was built very slowly. In the end, it took me a whole month to build my own house for the first time in my life. However, there is nothing inside yet. The house is empty. But he can arrange it as he wants. He can install a sink and a whole kitchen. Then Kenichi remembers about light. He uses a gasoline lamp now. But what about electricity? That diesel generator can be replaced with a quieter one, but he still has to spend money on gasoline and kerosene for lighting. He wonders how many solar panels will be enough to live in the forest. He has a lot of things to do. Another month passed, and finally Kenichi's house was ready. The man says he thinks it looks good. He made the fence himself and painted it with a protective compound bought at Shangri-La so it wouldn't rot. The marigolds planted around it keep the insects away, although he has a magic stone against insects. But the flowers seem to do a good job of protecting the garden. Near the house, he plowed a small garden and put a toilet nearby. At first glance, it is not much different from the previous world. And of course, he will use all the waste as fertilizer. In the corner of the room, he put a sink with a kitchen. But since he has inventory, he did not make a warehouse. The electricity problem was solved by placing 20 solar panels, each costing 10,000 yen. And in addition, he bought a battery that can be recharged, so he can directly connect the panels to it and charge it. And the man also installed a kidney in a small building. He built a bathhouse. He built a bathtub and a steel barrel. The hero is of such an age that he can afford it. In any case, the bath seems pleasant to him. A steel bathtub cost 20,000 yen, and he took 10 plastic canisters. He collects water from the river, puts it in the inventory, and rides around on a mountain bike with the wind. This is the first bath the young man takes after arriving in this world and among the trees. This is the very basis for a measured life. Not everyone can repeat this. But still, it was not in vain that he tried. Having become the master of his own castle, from that day on he begins his quiet life. At this time, someone is watching the man from the bushes. A month has passed since Kenichi started living in his house. He had already started to get used to the dark forest, so he decided to explore it. He bought a digital single-lens reflex camera for 23,000 yen. It's just his hobby and there's no real meaning to it. But she likes how the photo album fills up with beautiful flowers and plants from this world. Then he notices a flower and thinks it's very pretty. Suddenly, the man notices a huge beast right under the tree trunk. He is surprised that this animal is black, although if you look closely, it is a cat. Not as small and cute as a domestic cat. He thinks it's a wild, purebred, spotted cat. He appears to be breathing, but appears very weak. The man sees a broken arrow sticking out of the beast's body, so he wants to help it. He approaches the beast, but it suddenly begins to hiss at him. Suddenly, the beast feels pain and lies down, pressing itself to the ground. Kenichi continues to look at him. He then takes out a pillow secured with a rope and a neck guard for motorcyclists from his inventory and says that he is prepared for bites. To be honest, he is very scared, but leaving the animal like this is also wrong. He takes out a piece of arrow with his hand, and the beast begins to scream shrilly. Then he lies back down and the man pulls the arrow out of the beast's body. Kenichi thought that the beast was so weak that it did not resist at all and looked like it had already given up. He takes a rag and starts to wipe the wound, and then realizes that pus has already started to appear. Kenichi doesn't understand what to do. Then he thinks that first he needs to wash the wound with saline and disinfect the area. He goes to an online store and buys some antifungal ointment. The man applies a purchased ointment, which seems to be based on a drug against dermatitis, and gives the animal a painkiller. Finally, the treatment is complete. Kenichi wonders if he did everything right and if it is really enough. He has no confidence at all. He can't leave this animal in the forest, and it's impossible to put animals into inventory. Then he buys a big cart for 9,000 yen and decides to carry the beast to him. He decides to lift the beast, but he realizes that the beast is very heavy and definitely weighs more than 30 kilograms. The man carried the animal home, but it didn't even move. He thinks that he can no longer be saved. He understands that there's probably no veterinarian in this world, maybe there is something like healing magic, but in any case, it is better for him to ask tomorrow because there are magic stones here after all. After a while, Anima laughed because the young man is quite strange since he brought a forest cat to his home. She sighs and adds that the man is definitely crazy. The man apologizes to the girl. The girl from the hardware store also answered the same way. He said that the young man must have been joking when he said he wanted to use healing magic on the beast. This big cat is called a forest cat, and its skin is worth a lot of money. He also said that it would be better to take it to the guild, but that won't do. Suddenly Meyer appeared and said that she smelled like a forest cat. She wants to look at him. The man was surprised. After some time, they were walking along a path. The man said that it turns out that anthropomorphs protect forest cats. Mira agreed and said that they consider them messengers of God. Kenichi thinks that for a common man, he is just an expensive material. But for anthropomorphs, he is a messenger of God. In other words, he is an angel. So the cat was shot by someone other than the beastmen. Meyer said that dog people were different. They were definitely the ones who wanted to kill the forest cat. They also worshipped the magical wolf. Kenichi remembered the magical wolves he met at the very beginning of his journey. Kenichi asks if that means they, the cat people, are hunting the magical wolf. The girl agrees and then says that the man saved the forest cat, so now he is one of them. The man thought that he didn't want to answer about this yet, and he saved him by accident. Meyer is surprised and tells Kenichi that this house is very beautiful. The girl asked if he really built a house in the forest right away. Kenichi said that he had to sweat. At that moment, the cat was lying on his bed. Kenichi says he sees the cat has eaten a little. He hopes his appetite will return quickly. Meyer said he hurt his hip and he's so poor. The man says that now he needs to apply the ointment again. Then he notices that the cat starts licking its wound. The man tells him that he can't lick that wound. The hero tells the cat that this is all for him, so he asks the cat to understand him. Kenichi buys a protective collar for 3,000 yen. Meyer asked Kenichi if he was a veterinarian. The man said no, and then said he thought he could treat the wound and that he put the collar on to keep the cat from licking the wound. Meyer says that it's good that Kenichi is a good person, because someone else would definitely have brought this cat to the guild. She worries about the forest cat, so she will stay here. The man asks if this is really so. He says there's only one cat, but Meyer says they can sleep on one. Kenichi wonders if all anthropomorphic girls are like that. Meyer says that whoever saved the forest cat can't be a bad person. Kenichi repeated Meyer's words that he cannot be a bad person, even though he does not fully understand the values of this world. Kenichi then took care of the forest cat, and Meyer was able to catch a bird for dinner. Kenichi set up a grill, and then roasted the bird on it. Meyer was burning with desire to eat it all. The man then gives the forest cat a bowl of delicious-smelling food. Meyer and Kenichi are happy that the forest cat likes the food. After some time, Meyer left, and Kenichi decided to take care of the garden. Kenichi bought an electric cultivator for 16,800 yen. He understands that the machine works well and that he just needs to be held. The man quickly plowed everything in 30 minutes. If he had swung a hoe, his whole body would have definitely ached the next day. The man does not understand what to plant. Usually people plant tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes. To begin with, he will try to plant only tomatoes. He can buy vegetables on Shangri-La, and this idea seems useless. But a measured life includes growing vegetables, although he uses cunning. By the way, every time carrying water from the river in canisters is also quite inconvenient. He wonders if it is possible to dig a well in the forest. He only needs to dig a hole with an earth auger to run a hose through. He does not need a large well. There are quite large trees growing here. There should definitely be a lot of water under them. The next morning, the man wakes up and sees some kind of shadow on the ceiling, namely something black. Suddenly, something jumps down on the boy and he starts coughing. That something was a black cat. Kenichi was glad to see the forest cat looking healthy. The man says that if the cat could climb so high, it must be strong. He says that he will now remove the protective collar from it. Then the cat jumps off the bed. He starts scratching at the door. Kenichi gets up and opens the door, then asks the cat if he's really leaving already. The forest cat began to turn and then walked away. Kenichi thinks that even though he still limps a little, there is no need to worry about him. He smiles and thinks that he did everything he could. He hopes that this cat will be okay. A couple of days later, he stopped showing up at the market and decided to work on the well. And finally, after some time, he got the water flowing. He says he pumped water out of a well, ran it through a PVC pipe and poured it straight into a bathtub. He thinks it's pretty good. However, making things with your own hands is quite fun, and he is quite good at it. He got really carried away and it was already dark, so he decides to heat up the bath and dive into it head first. Then the man lights the stove. Suddenly, someone calls his name and he gets very scared. The man turns around and sees Premura there. The girl climbed over the fence. Kenichi asked her what she was doing there. The girl replied that she was worried because he hadn't opened his shop for a long time. But the cat girl pointed out where the man lived. Kenichi asked the girl if she really came without protection and what would happen if monsters attacked her. The girl said that Kenichi lived here, so there was no need to be afraid. Then the girl pointed to the excavator and asked him what that huge piece of steel was. The man realized that he had left the excavator outside. The man said in all seriousness that he himself summoned this creature. Therefore, he is his faithful assistant. Premura was surprised and asked the man if he really summoned him and if it was possible that he could use magic. Kenichi agreed. He then said that he would like to ask the girl not to tell anyone about this. Premura agrees and said that she knew the young man was an unusual person, but one of his secrets was just revealed. Kenichi thought that it seemed like he had shown his weakness, but he thought that he didn't have to worry about Premura, especially if the royals find out about it. They'll just use him and throw him away. This is no joke. They wouldn't want that to happen either. The Maru Trading Company doesn't want to lose a partner. No one only takes, and there is no guarantee that there will be something in return. Just as he thought. The man then tells Premura that the city gates are probably already closed. Premura agrees and says that the man is absolutely right. The man asked if the girl would really stay here. Premura asked Kenichi if he really wanted her to spend the night on the street. The man said he only had one bed. Premura replied that it was okay. Went on long business trips to buy things, sleeping in the same place as the men was perfectly normal. Kenichi thought that the girl was no slouch. He saw that Premura really wanted to stay here, and he couldn't kick her out. Then Premura notices the barrel and asks what it is. The man replies that it is a bathtub. Premura is very surprised. She says that she definitely has to try it. The girl starts taking a bath and then apologizes to Kenichi and asks if he is there. The man sits behind the wall and says that he is here. He thinks that he is here only because the girl is afraid to sit alone. She is scared, so the man decided to sit around the corner. He thinks that she is just like a little girl who can't go to the toilet at night. Then Premura calls the man again. She tells him that she is in the bath, so she asks if the man could come in. Kenichi asks the girl if she is against it. Premura agrees. Kenichi thinks that if she says he can come in, then he can. He's not old enough to be nervous about seeing a naked girl. He goes in and asks how she likes the water. The girl replies that the water is just wonderful and she didn't think she could take a bath so easily. To make a bath like the nobles had, you need to make a room out of stone, install a boiler, and run a water supply. You need at least several tens of millions. She blushes. Kenichi says that if he embarrasses the girl, he can leave. The girl asks the man to stay. Kenichi sighs and says that if the girl is scared, she could come at another time or something. The girl said that in trading, you can't miss a chance, because it may never come again. Kenichi asks what would happen if he turned out to be a bad person. The girl answered that the one who helped the anthropomorphs and saved the forest cat could not be a bad person. Another, seeing the wounded cat, would finish him off and take him to the guild. Then she said that it was time to go. The man handed her the clothes and told the girl that it was a robe and a belt, so she should not take it off until the sweat went away. The girl puts on the robe and says that it is incredibly soft and then asks if it is possible that it is not for sale either. The man replies that he was going to sell it but not for sale either. The man replies that he was going to sell it but not much. Then he serves Premura a drink. She says it's so sweet and delicious and a little sour. She asks if it could be milk. The man agrees and says it's milk with fruit juice. Premura says that with so many goods in all of Dalia, the man will become the richest merchant in the country. Kenichi replies that he does not want to become one. He has enough of this profit to live a quiet life with delicious food. He then invites the girl to show him her hobby. He shows her the album. Premura asks if Kenichi really drew it. The man agrees and says that she only needs money for crafts and drawing. That's all she needs. Premura says that it is the same forest cat. Maybe the man should become an artist at the palace. Kenichi tells the girl not to flatter him, and then asks her if she wants him to draw her. The girl agrees. Then she strikes a pose. Kenichi starts drawing her. After a while, he shows her the drawing. Premura is very happy and asks if she can have it. Kenichi agrees. Premura hugged the portrait to her chest. Kenichi then bought a metal bed for Premura. He couldn't sleep, so he stared at his information windows. He understands that Shangri-La has one, but a rather big problem. If there is no limit on the amount of money for payment, then the site will definitely become a black hole that sucks in money. As long as there is money, you can buy anything you want. And when the royal family gets access to it, there will definitely be huge deals. However, the money sent into the black hole does not return. Soon the state treasury will be empty and then the country will face economic collapse. And they will accuse him of destroying the state. He will also be constantly on the run, destroying countries one after another. Therefore, he can dispose of the sum approximately as a common person or try to sell on Shangri-La something that is worth nothing in this world. If there was a map, this problem would be solved in an instant. He understands that he will need to come up with some way to solve this problem. The next morning, Kenichi and Premura decided to go to the Maru Trading Company. He left his trading partner's daughter overnight, so he should at least explain himself. He recalls all the episodes related to Premura and says that he will definitely be angry. After some time, they arrive at the girl's home. They are met by Maru right at the gates of the mansion. He starts to get angry and asks Premura where she was because she didn't even tell him anything. The girl said that she was outside the city walls and couldn't get home, so she spent the night at Kenichi's house. She was outside the city walls and couldn't get home, so she spent the night at Kenichi's house. Kenichi awkwardly said that he couldn't leave Maru's daughter outside, so he had to let her in. Maru replied that in that case, he apologized for the inconvenience. Kenichi thought the man would get angry or lecture her, but apparently he wasn't worried about the big age difference between him and the girl or the trust he had in him. At that moment, Maru wondered who his daughter was like. Premura turned to her father and said, "Isn't it obvious? Once he knows about a good deal, neither the battlefield with its endlessly flying arrows nor the forest full of monsters ever stopped him." Kenichi thinks that Maru is probably confused by the wayward Premura. No one wants their daughter to get into trouble. Even he thinks so. The girl added that she took advantage of the opportunity and was able to buy new goods. The man said that his daughter makes him worry. After a while, Kenichi takes out a cloth. Maru said that he has never seen such a cloth, and it can be used to wipe the body after bathing, and this is worn after taking a bath. Kenichi says that it absorbs moisture well and is pleasant. Then he shows a woman's outfit and says that he has this one too. Maru was very surprised, and Premura watched in admiration. He said that this could melt even the coldest heart. If a girl appeared in it in front of a man she liked. At that moment, he turned his attention to Maru, who told the girl how shameful she was. Kenichi began to put away the goods and apologize for going too far. Suddenly, the noise of the door was heard. Kenichi saw the maid with the books and said that after all, a large company has a large volume of accounting. Maru replied that the rules for this accounting had recently been updated, and he was currently rewriting everything. Kenichi asked what these rules were. Maru replied that it was a double entry system that had recently been invented in the Empire. Kenichi asked about double entry. Maru asked if the boy knew about it. Kenichi replied that he had only heard about it. According to Maru, somewhere on the outskirts of the Empire, in a trading city, the head of the merchant guild came up with this method of accounting, and it quickly became popular throughout the Empire. The head of the guild is to be appointed Minister of Trade for such merits. However, this is double entry. Premura told her father that today wasn't the day of that experiment. Maru replied that the master had just said that everything was ready and that they could begin the experiments after lunch. Premura asked if the master could also take a look at what Kenichi had. Maru asked if it was really outside. Premura agreed and said it was pretty big. Kenichi wondered if Premura was talking about a bath barrel. The girl asks the boy if he doesn't mind. Kenichi replies that he doesn't mind. They agree that he will come after lunch, and he has time until lunch. He decides to try to register for the Adventurers Guild in the future. After some time, they come to the Adventurers Guild. The receptionist girl asks if the man really wants to join the Adventurers Guild. The entry fee is 1 silver coin. If he is a member of another guild, he must present an ID. Kenichi hands over an ID from the Merchant Guild. Then the girl administrator announces that registration is over. They can see the assignments on that notice board, and he can also go to any window for special assignments. Kenichi thanks the girl. He thinks about that. Apparently the merchant guild card works everywhere. At the same time, he will check the notice board. He notices a quest to collect rare herbs and find lost items. A person has also gone missing, and above that are quests to find criminals. Then he notices a poster of the bandit group Shaga, which he has recently heard about. There are 50 of them in total. The guild gives money for catching them. If you destroy them, you can get a good sum. He thinks that it is time to return to the palace, because this does not apply to him. After some time, he comes to Maru and Premura's house and is very surprised when he sees a hand water pump. Maru asks Kenichi if the man already knows about him. The man persists and says that the water comes up from the well by raising and lowering the lever. Maru says that the man is right and adds that he knows everything, as always. Recently spread throughout the Empire. They bought it right away and asked the master to make it. Kenichi thinks that this is a world without copyright. But still, this water pump, like the double entry, is too clever to be a coincidence. Is there really someone else who came from another world? This is the man who will become the Minister of Trade. At this time, Premura shouted to her father and said that the water was flowing. Maru thought that this was wonderful and that it was necessary to launch it into production as soon as possible. As Kenichi thought, after the pump, the idea of a bath barrel didn't bring them such excitement. However, he felt a little offended, so he decided to offer something else. He shows a picture of a bicycle. Premura is very happy. Premura starts laughing and asks what it is. Kenichi says that you need to push off the ground with your feet and go. The girl shows a picture of Maru and asks her father to look at it. Suddenly, Maru starts laughing and says that he has never seen anything like it. Premura said that Kenichi has a great sense of humor. Kenichi thought that they probably thought it was funny. In any endeavor, the beginner is the one who is most often ridiculed. If you told them that you could fly in the sky, they would definitely die laughing. The young man said that it was easier and less tiring to move than to just run. Maru replies that it seems easier to ride than to run. If they have time, they will try to make it. Kenichi thinks about Maru's last sentence and thinks that Premura is still laughing and that it will probably not be possible to make it. A month passed and Kenichi noticed a carefree bicycle in the city. And as he understood, the Maru company started selling it. Although he laughed at the bicycle he had drawn at first, after a few days Maru realized its usefulness. So he decided to make a prototype and showed everyone his new product by riding it around the city. Kenichi thinks that he is an excellent merchant after all. He immediately gets down to business as soon as he sees a good idea. The bikes became 2, then 3, and he began to see them occasionally. They were used in the government and work as a kind of messenger. So he, as the one who proposed the original idea, received 5 gold coins. Of course, this is less than the patent fee in the previous world, but even the fact that they paid for the idea is already pleasing. Maru was praised for inventing the bicycle, and the owner of the land rewarded him. He was allowed to have a family name. Of course, the fact that it was Kenichi's idea remains a secret. A few more months passed, and bicycles began to travel more and more often around the city. They called them Deserin, but his measured life did not change. Grandpa from the hardware store sold him useful bikes, and the walk through the forest also goes according to plan. Vegetables grow well in the garden. The forest cat and anthropomorphs bring meat, and while the guild buys carcasses, he can continue to live a full life. For a while there were rumors in the market about Kenichi, a rather unusual person, but he rarely opened a shop, so soon they stopped talking. He went bankrupt, died, moved, and so on. They came up with it themselves. But let them do so. He had already settled in the new world, so he made fewer and fewer deals with Maru's company. Although he heard that the nobility continued to make orders, he began to go there less, but instead, Premura began to go to him. The girl ate the snack and said that they were so crunchy and had such a pleasant aroma. Kenichi said that it was a snack, thinly sliced potato slices fried in oil. Premura began to visit him sometimes. The young man was surprised by this. Premura then asked if Kenichi regretted it, since they were only able to get a surname thanks to the young man. Kenichi replied that it was okay. As he had said earlier, he had enough money to live on. On the contrary, he would like to reveal his name. Premura replied that they laughed at the Zarin at first. Kenichi told the girl not to worry about it. Premura said she first realized how comfortable it was the moment she tried it. Kenichi wondered if Premura was really planning on staying overnight again. After a while, Kenichi said that it was already night, so it was time to go to bed, because the girl had decided to stay after all. He tells the girl that he will now get a night robe. Premura gets embarrassed and says that if possible, could the man take out what he recently showed, something translucent. Kenichi told the girl that if she bought something like that, her father would be angry. Premura said that everything was fine because she was not a little girl anymore. Kenichi asked the girl if she had someone she wanted to attract. Premura answered positively and said that she wanted to do it right now. Kenichi was surprised and then saw the girl's embarrassed face. Kenichi told the girl to sit right next to him. The girl replied that she was already sitting. Kenichi said that young girls should take better care of themselves. They shouldn't get attached to a guy like him. Premura told Kenichi that he was a fine man. Kenichi said that was unfortunate. Aren't girls like Premura in great demand among the nobility? Premura agreed and said that offers were coming in, but the merchant's daughter could not become the first wife. They saw him only as a kept woman. The man asks what about the knight who often comes to his shop. Premura asks if the man is really talking about the knight from the Nospel family. Kenichi asks what Maru would say if that happened. Premura replies that he doesn't mind. Kenichi thinks that his father should do the same, since he probably doesn't agree either. Kenichi apologizes and says that he would like to drop the topic, since it's too much of a responsibility. So he asks the girl to accept the refusal. Premura got upset and asked the man to just let her sleep on the same bed. Just sleep. After a while, they lie down together, and Premura immediately falls asleep. Kenichi was thinking at that moment why this girl liked an uncle like him. The next morning, they said goodbye. Kenichi decided to do some gardening today and remove the weeds. Suddenly, he was interrupted by a voice. A young man in armor approached him and asked Kenichi if he was the salesman at the store. Kenichi recognized the young man and said that he had not expected to meet him in such a place. The young man replied that he had been informed that a suspicious man was living in the forest, so he came to check. It turned out to be Kenichi. He asks how he managed to build a house here. Kenichi replies that it wasn't easy. The boy asks him what's there, and then points to something black. Kenichi realizes that his solar panels are attracting attention. Kenichi says it's related to magic, so he apologizes. The boy asks if he's really a magician. Kenichi said that he would like to ask the boy not to divulge this. The boy said that if others found out that Kenichi had strong magical abilities, it would be a bit of a problem. The young man says that in that case, if it works out, then can Kenichi fulfill one of the young man's wishes. After a while, the young man received several beautiful steel ingots. The surface was shiny as if they had been cut with a knife. Kenichi realized that the man was more pleased with the precise rectangular shape than with the quality of the metal. The man says he knows the boy uses a long sword, but he doesn't have one, so he suggests he take a piece of steel and ask his best blacksmith to forge a sword. The boy says he agrees. Then Kenichi offers another strong drink. The boy says that after such a treat you can't just leave, so he asks what the man wanted to hear. Kenichi says that the man figured him out. He asks about the state of diplomatic relations with his country. The young man replies that the merchant is still interested in learning about other countries. Kenichi says that with the approach of war, what can be bought or sold changes. The young man says that he needs to think about it. There are still minor skirmishes with neighbors on the border, but he thinks that until the internal problems are resolved, there will be no war. Kenichi asks about the problems in the empire. The young man replies that the empress and her first daughter are currently fighting for power. Kenichi asks about the fact that the empress and heiress are actually mother and daughter. The young man replies that it is. However, she wanted her beloved second daughter to inherit her title and tried to poison the first daughter, but she failed. And then their feud only began. Kenichi was surprised that mother and daughter were trying to kill each other. Kenichi asks how long this will last. The young man replies that he doesn't think so. The first princess subdued a powerful mage with special magical powers, so the daughter received powers that surpassed her mother. The boy tries to remember the name of this magic and says that it is yellow. Kenichi asks if it is really called mayonnaise. The boy agrees. Kenichi is very surprised and asks if it is really possible. The young man says that the magician can also summon a huge wave of oil. There is a legend about how he doused all the monsters with oil and burned them to ashes. Kenichi initially thought that mayonnaise was just a joke, but in large quantities it turns out that it can be used as a weapon. He is definitely the one who came from another world. The full name of this empire is the Empire of the Young Maiden. According to the knight, when the empress sits on the throne, there is a tradition where she uses the treasure of the gods to take the form of a girl and rule the empire. Kenichi thinks that this is very childish. And yet, war is not at all desirable. The knight simply came to check that the man in the forest was not one of the bandits. Then let the knight inform the others that there was a familiar strange man in the forest. A month had passed since he had seen Premura off with his eyes, and there had been no news from them for a long time. But later he learned that the Maru trading company had left in a caravan to make purchases. They were supposed to be back today. Maybe they brought something unusual, so he decides to take a look. The man makes his way into the crowd and thinks about what happened. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice begging for help. Maru asked to save his daughter and said that he would pay. The man cried very hard. Suddenly, Kenichi ran up to him and asked what had happened. Maru said that their caravan had been attacked by bandits, and when they had been completely robbed, Premura had not had time to escape. Kenichi was very surprised. Maru's other colleagues said that the man tried to return, but they pulled him away, and they don't know if the others are alive. They don't know how far the steppe bandits can go. Mar falls to his knees and begs someone to save his daughter. He says he can give as much money as anyone wants. Others began to whisper that Shago was destroying villages to the ground. The leader of that group of bandits of more than 50 people, who was on the board of criminals. Probably, Premura can no longer be saved. Premura, at one point, he told Maru that he would definitely deal with it. Everyone was very surprised. Kenichi thinks that this sounds crazy, but it is. He has never led an army before. He is completely new to this. Surely everyone is thinking about what he can do. Kenichi thinks that if he does not do something now, he will definitely regret it, especially since they have Shangri-La. The man tells Maru that he needs money for preparation. He will return it to him later. The man immediately takes out a bag and says that in this case, the man can use this money. For the sake of his daughter, he is ready to give any amount. Kenichi thanks the man. The amount in the account was 50 gold coins. The bandit's base was 30 leagues away, that is, about 50 kilometers. Strong legs were needed to reach the base. He thinks about horses and then says that he will just find the right transport on Shangri-La, and it will not matter. If you take a truck that can travel over rough terrain and can carry 20 to 30 people, then you need a truck. The man shouts to everyone that he is now using summoning magic. Something big is going to appear, so everyone needs to disperse. Everyone is surprised that the man would use summoning magic and that he must be a mage. Maru turns to Kenichi and asks what he is going to do. Kenichi buys a truck and says that he is going to summon a diesel truck for 2,400,000 yen. Everyone was very surprised and scared that something big appeared. Kenichi said that everything was fine and he only listened to a man. It was a car that drove without horses. Everyone was surprised that she was actually driving without a horse. It was like magic. Kenichi didn't think he would be driving a truck in another world. It's a good thing he has a Category C driver's license. He will take those who are ready to fight to the bandits' base. He will provide weapons and shields. They will be able to get a large sum of money for Shag's head. Kenichi fell silent, but suddenly Meyer turned to him and asked the man what weapon he would give her. Kenichi was surprised that Meyer came to him. After all, the girl said that she was good at archery. He buys her a compound bow. The girl is surprised and asks what it is, because she has never seen such a cool bow. Kenichi says that he is very strong, but it takes time to draw the bowstring, so the girl will not be able to shoot in a row. Miyari replies that she understands. Suddenly, Nyakuro, Nyarmero, and Nyanji approach Kenichi. The men ask the hero if they will get any weapons. Kenichi gives them a saber for 15,000 yen, a battle axe for 36,000 yen, and a crossbow for 55,000 yen. The men were very happy because it was much better than the crossbows of the Imperial Army. Because the blade was thin, it seemed soft, but at the same time, it did not bend much. Kenichi realized that it would be bad for anyone who got hit by them. The men told Kenichi that they would go with him because they wanted to earn money, so they asked the man to take them with him. Suddenly, someone says that in that case, he is also with them. Kenichi turned around and saw a familiar knight. The beastman said that with the knight they could be more confident in their powers. The young man says that, by the way, his wolf-fang is finally ready. Kenichi asks the knight about the wolf-fang. The young man takes out his new sword and says that this is, of course, the name of his sword. The blacksmith forged it from the steel that Kenichi recently gave him. Hunting Shag would be a good chance to test him. He let him soak in the blood of those guilty of evil deeds. Kenichi thought that the man was a bit twisted too. Suddenly, the grandfather from the hardware store appears and says that he will not stand aside either. Kenichi asked if he was going to beat everyone too. The man replied that he was actually an adventurer. He then demonstrated his magical abilities. Kenichi says that Grandpa is a mage. The man replies that he stopped being one a long time ago, but he thinks that he will be useful in battle. Suddenly, Anima calls them and asks how they dared not invite her with them. Kenichi asked the woman who was already climbing into the truck what she was saying, since they were going to fight. The woman replied that fighting was fighting, but the group would not go hungry. She would definitely be able to cook food, but she would run away if there was any danger. Thus, 8 adventurers gathered. Considering that there were 50 evil bandits, they were far from being in a winning position. He also gave out a crossbow and a machete. However, they should not attack them head-on. For example, at night, suddenly. Then perhaps they have a chance. Then they come to the Adventurers Guild. The administrator girl with shaking hands accepts the application for the destruction of the Shaga bandit group. There is no adventure rank in this world, so you can take any assignment. If everything works out, the man will receive money from the guild, Maru's company, and the state. It will be quite a large sum, but only if he returns alive. The man then leaves the guild and meets Maru there. The man tells Kenichi that he knew the man was hiding something, but he didn't know he had that kind of magic. Kenichi turns to Maru and says he has a favor to ask of the man. Maru asks the man how he can help. Maru then begins to glow and asks, saying he can take as much as he wants. Kenichi had been looking for armor or chainmail on the Shangri-La, but there was nothing there that an adventurer would need. Maru's company paid for it all, so they bought it for everyone, including Kenichi. He took the lightest leather armor for himself. He then turns to one of the beastmen who was holding the shield and says that he will give him a better shield, so there is no need to buy one. The man asked if Kenichi's shield was really the same as the rigid saber with some kind of magical effect. Kenichi agreed and said that he couldn't show it here, so he would see them when they left the city. He will also cook the food, so the warriors don't have to worry. Everything is in the inventory, so they will eat deliciously. At this point, the young warrior said that he was all in anticipation. Mr. Kenichi's dishes are simply delicious, and camp food is always tasteless. With a delicious lunch, your mood will improve. After a while, Kenichi gets behind the wheel and says that it's time to leave. 15 adventurers and 1 woman boarded a 4-ton truck with weapons and armor. After lunch, they were escorted by other people and they all headed to the base. Among those seeing them off were those who pointed and laughed because only 15 people could not defeat the group. However, there comes a time for every man when he must go, no matter what. They left Dalia to rescue Premura from bandits. They set up their base in an abandoned castle 50 kilometers away. There are 50 of them, and they say they don't stand on ceremony with anyone. Several of their caravan have already been killed. It is unknown what they were able to do with Premura. Kenichi knows it's best not to think about it. Now he needs to figure out how to save her. Anima told the man that she was, however, very surprised. She didn't think it was possible to go that fast without horses. Magic is no joke. It doesn't shake much, and if you go that fast in a carriage, you can easily crash. Kenichi realizes that Anima believes it's all magic. But it's better this way. Meyer replies that they'll break camp on the way back to camp. After a while, the whole squad stopped for a snack. Everyone was delighted with how delicious it was. Although the soup is red, it is a vegetable soup with a lot of rabbit meat. Kenichi said that since the man understood it so quickly, it meant that his taste was so specific. The man was happy and raised his spoon up. The beastman said that the master's food was excellent as always, and Meyer added that it was still the best. The male mage said that the anthropomorphs, from what he could see, were eating something delicious. The man also tried the cat food and said it was quite tasty. Kenichi thought about how they had come here without having eaten lunch. They were probably very hungry. It was useless to fight on an empty stomach. While the fire was burning, everyone discussed the attack plan. It was about 10 kilometers to Shaga's base. Their enemies are 50 bandits, so they need to come up with a plan. Anima said that they will attack while they are sleeping. Kenichi agrees and says that if they approach with a truck, they will definitely wake up. Kenichi then asked if there was a gate. The anthropomorph said that there most likely was, since it was in the old castle. The grandpa magician said that he would deal with them. Kenichi asked his grandfather if he could take them down with magic. Grandfather said that Kenichi was almost right. Kenichi thought that maybe it would be better to attack them when they were drunk, instead of when they were sleeping. The young knight said that he agreed to this proposal. Alcohol slows down reactions and, depending on the situation, there will be no organization either, and they will definitely have dinner without a reservation. Kenichi thinks that in this world they start having dinner and drinking alcohol around evening, and that means they'll get drunk in about 2 hours. Then he calls Meyer and says that he is giving her a radio for 30,000 yen. He says that it is a magical attribute with which they can communicate over a distance. He tells Meyer that he wants to ask her to keep an eye on them. She will report on the enemy's movements. If there is a signalman, she must remove him. He then shows the girl how to use it. He specifies that they, the beastmen, have good night vision and dark fur, so they can easily blend into the environment. After some time, Mayur is in the depths of the forest. Kenichi turns to Mayure and asks if she can hear him. Mayur is surprised and says that he can hear her. At this time, the grandfather magician appeared behind the young man. He turns to the young man and says that even an imperial magician does not have such magical attributes. Kenichi turned to his grandfather and asked him not to spread the word. Kenichi then remembers that he promised to give them shields. He buys 5 polycarbonate armor shields for 40,000 yen each. They say that even though he is thin, he won't break so easily. Maybe they really can defeat Shag. Kenichi thinks that, of course, everything cost him dearly. He then turns to the young knight and asks if he needs a shield. The young knight thanks Kenichi and says that he does not need a shield. He also buys a polycarbonate round shield for 15,000 yen for one of the anthropomorphs. He thinks that the beastmen need a smaller shield so that they can move more easily, but war is still expensive. He bought a laser pointer for his airgun. He'll have to fight in the dark, so it wouldn't hurt to attach it to his crossbow. At close range, if you point the pointer at the target, you'll definitely hit it. It'll definitely be hard to get the local to get used to it, so he'll keep it for himself. He then turns to Anima and says that they rely on her. The woman turns around and says that she remembers. If they don't return within 24 hours, she must inform the guild in the city that the mission has failed. Kenichi agrees. Anima says that she doesn't like to report anything to the government, so she asks them to return alive. Sometime later, late at night, Kenichi turned to Mayuri and told her to report the situation. The girl was hiding in the bushes and said that the castle was surrounded by a stone wall and there was a large wooden gate. Kenichi asks if there are enemies. Mayur answers that there is a tower above the wall and there are several people standing there. Kenichi asks if there is anyone inside the castle. The girl answers that, judging by the voices, there are many. Kenichi thinks that even though he understood everything, it seems that it will be more difficult. He turns to the knight and says that they have waited long enough, so the time has come. The young knight replied that it is time to move. Then the beastman turned to the gentleman and threw him an object. The grandfather magician said that the young man had no experience in fighting, so he needed to bite through this object. The man then bites and nearly spits out the object, saying it is very bitter. His tongue is numb and he cannot speak. He asks what it is and if he is sure he is okay. The beastman laughed and told Kenichi not to worry because everything would work now. Kenichi realized that it was dark, but suddenly everything became brighter and clearer. He then noticed that he couldn't stop laughing. Kenichi asked what it was and if it wasn't some kind of illegal substance. The beastman said that if Kenichi overdoes it, he might lose his head, but that would require a lot of stupidity. Kenichi realized that it was a substance after all. After a while, he relays the information to Mir and says that they are moving, so the girl should be ready. Mir said that she understood, and then said that she would take out everyone with the signalman. The truck accelerates. Finally, they reach the tower. Kenichi yells at his grandpa to light it. The man starts casting a spell and summons a forest that grows in the abyss and is connected to the endless void. He asks him to grant him the power that comes from a dying soul. He calls for a magical explosion. The beastmen thought it was really cool, so they asked Grandpa to do it again. The man said it wouldn't work today because it was too strong a spell. Then Kenichi, with a truck, knocks down the castle gate. The bandits, who had already fallen asleep, suddenly woke up and began to get up. Kenichi thinks that, as they had expected, they did not expect an attack at all. Kenichi announces the command to fire crossbows. Most of the bandits were hit by arrows. Some of them took their swords and chased the warriors to kill them. However, the beastmen entered the battle, wielding excellent weapons. They were glad that the blade was going very well. At that moment, the young knight got off the truck and took out his sword. At that moment, a man attacked him, but the young man said that his wolf fang was thirsty for blood. In an instant, he dodges the man's blow, then makes a sweeping attack and cuts him in half. The young man looked at the blade and said how well the blade cuts. Kenichi thinks that both the beastman and the knight are so cool, but the knight seems completely different and scary. He thinks that they will have enough strength after all. Then he notices a crowd of bandits who are advancing right on the truck. Kenichi thinks that there are still so many of them left, but he won't be left behind either. He summons an excavator and then gets behind the wheel. Then he uses the ladle in its circular motion. The bandits started screaming that it was a monster and they started begging for help. Kenichi asked what the bandits were mumbling and then asked where Premura was. Suddenly, he heard a high-pitched voice and saw a room with girls. Kenichi realized that there were more captives besides Premura. He shouts to all the girls to take cover. Suddenly, a man shouted at everyone and ordered them to look straight at him. Kenichi thought that this was Shaga. The man said that he didn't think that the rescuers would bring a mage who controlled monsters to bring this girl back. He says that it's time for them to put down their weapons. At that moment, the man held a sword next to Premura and smiled maliciously. Kenichi saw Premura and told Shaga that he was allowing himself and demanded that he immediately release Premura. Shaga replied that they needed to lower their weapons because the girl's life was now in his hands. Kenichi thought that he spoke just like a real villain, even though he also said the words of a hero. What is he even thinking about now? Because even though he understands in his head, but it seems that because of that nut, he has completely lost his sense of fear. It's like he's watching some kind of TV series. However, he knows for sure that he must save Premura. Suddenly, Shaga throws out a torch and tells everyone to stop talking, then grabs Premura and tells the opponents to quickly put down their weapons. Shaga then rips the blouse off Premura's body. The girl was very scared and started crying. Kenichi screamed and asked the man what he was doing. Shaga screamed, holding the girl by the hair, and said that if he knew, he should have disobeyed the nobles and played with her to his heart's content. Kenichi focused on what the bandit said and thought that he had just said something very important. Then he whispered to Meyer and asked the girl if she could hear him. Kenichi took out his laser pointer from his crossbow. He asked Meyer if she could see the red dot on the gang leader's body. He will blind his eye with this beam, and the girl will shoot him with a bow. Kenichi asks the girl if she is ready, and then points the laser pointer directly at the man's eye. He lets go of Premura and covers his eye with his hand. The next moment, Meyer releases an arrow from his compound bow. Shaga said what it was, and then an arrow pierced his head. All the bandits were very surprised. Then a cloud of arrows flew at them. All the bandits were destroyed. A squad of warriors shouted that it was a victory and that they had indeed killed everyone. Also, that now all the money is theirs. The knight said that it is too early to relax because there are wounded here. Then they started to treat the wounded. Kenichi was surprised that his grandfather could heal. At that moment, the beastmen shook their ears, listening to their surroundings. Then they said that they only heard the girls crying and nothing else suspicious. However, as the knight said, you have to keep your ears open. Kenichi turned to Premura and asked her if she was okay. The girl threw herself into the man's arms. Kenichi realized that the nut was about to make him explode from the overwhelming feelings he was feeling. He mentally calmed himself down. He then covers the girl with a cloak and then asks Premura if the leader of the Shaga gang is really lying next to them. The girl agrees and says that the other bandits called him that. Kenichi turned to the knight and said that Shaga had said something very important. The knight agreed and said that he had spoken about the connection with the nobility. Premura added that Shaga said that he was paid by one of the nobility for the kidnapping. The knight was surprised and said that if Premura was telling the truth, it would not lead to anything good. Although he guessed that there were rotten people among them, he did not think that they were so rotten. Kenichi thinks that Shaga kidnapped a girl who was famous throughout the city and probably wanted to make her a servant and play with her to his heart's content. Kenichi turned to the knight and asked if he could check the bandits' database and find evidence. Of all of them, only the knight understands the affairs of the nobility. The knight agreed. Then Miyar approached Kenichi and said that these bandits were kidnapping girls from different villages. Kenichi bought 20 blankets and said that they can't be left like that, so Meyer should give them to everyone. Kenichi said that they came from Dalia to deal with the Shaga bandits. They wouldn't touch the girls, so they didn't have to worry. If they wanted to go home, the man could take them. All the girls were happy. In the end, only 9 girls decided to return to their homeland. For many reasons, the rest chose to go to the big city, Dalia. After some time, Kenichi was called by one of the girls. She said that they had not washed for several days. There was a Kolodets nearby, so they would like to wash there. The man gives the girl a lantern and says that they can do whatever they want. He can also give them soap and clothes. He buys 20 blouses and 20 skirts and then asks the girls if they like these clothes. Premura comes up to him and says that she needs clothes too. Then Maire turns to Kenichi and says that this child needs to be washed too. Kenichi thinks it's a boy. His hair is disheveled and there's dirt on his face, so it's not entirely clear. Kenichi asks Premura to wash the boy and then shows her the scissors and tells her to use this. The girl asks what it is. Kenichi says that you can cut your hair like this with this. Premura approaches the man and asks if they can sell this in their stores too. Kenichi realized that there were no scissors in this world. That's what it means to be a merchant's daughter. Premura never forgets her father's company. Suddenly the girls giggled, so Premura approached Kenichi naked. Premura started to feel embarrassed. Kenichi thought that he could rely on Premura for the girls. After a while, he noticed a pile of bandit corpses. Even though he was under a nut then, it won't work like that. Especially since those who got hurt by him have more injuries than the rest. Then he turns to the beastman and asks what he's doing. The man replies that they need to provide the head of the leader as proof. They promised a large reward for his life. To convince the guild, they need to identify the bandit by sight. This is the first time Kenichi has encountered this, but for them, adventurers, it is already a familiar thing. Kenichi realized that the other world was cruel after all. This is what happens when you step outside the city. He says that he will put the heads in the inventory then. The beastman says that they start to stink over time and are awkward to carry. Kenichi thinks that they won't rot in the inventory. He picks up the head and realizes that he didn't think he would have to put things like that. He doesn't understand why this happened and where his measured life is. After a while, Kenichi put his hand on his face and did not understand how everything turned out that he had 52 heads in his inventory. At that moment, a girl turned to Kenichi and said that the clothes suited everyone very well. However, it was inconvenient for them to receive such good clothes. Kenichi told them not to worry about it. Then he looked at the child and realized that she was, in fact, a girl. She had her hair cut and now her face could be seen. Kenichi says that she should pick out a dress for the girl then. He buys the simplest child's dress for 3,000 yen. He gives the clothes to the girl and tells her that she can wear them. Kenichi realizes that the girl doesn't know how to dress, so he asks one of the girls to help her. The dark-haired girl replies that it's no problem and changes her clothes in a second. Kenichi told the girl that the dress suited her very well, and Premura asked her what her name was. The girl awkwardly approached Kenichi. She said her name was Buttercup. Kenichi smiled and said that it was a nice name and he was very pleased to meet her. After some time, the beastmen were completely immersed in searching for the bandits' treasures. But it was already getting dark, so he and the girls decided to spend the night. Buttercup snuggled up to Kenichi as she slept. Everything was resolved, and he thought they would be able to return to Dalia safely. Morning finally arrived. Kenichi addressed the beastmen, pointing to the huge pile of treasure and asked if they could really carry it all with them. He also pointed out some things and asked if they were really what had been taken from the bandits. The man replied that it was all possible to sell and wasn't it a shame to leave it all here. Kenichi said that the truck would be occupied by girls on the way back. The man replied that there were still valuables left in the castle. They looked at Kenichi with greedy eyes and seemed to say that it was a pity to leave all this behind. Kenichi smiled and said that they would have to put everything in the inventory. They replied that they did not even doubt the master. He then sends the boys out to fish and says he will make breakfast. Suddenly, one of the girls replies that vegetables can be found in the garden behind the castle. Kenichi thanks her. Then he says he will cook meat. He needs to celebrate this victory, so he buys several kilograms of meat, namely 12 kilograms of sliced pork. Then he starts cooking, and the girls have already brought vegetables. Buttercup also helped carry vegetables. Kenichi thinks he feels like he forgot something. Suddenly, a knight calls him. The man says that as Kenichi asked, he checked the castle and found evidence of the bandits' connection to the nobility. Kenichi took the letter in his hands and said that they weren't very smart to leave it. Or they were so sure that no one would know. The knight replied that the latter was definitely not the case. If they were related to the nobility, they would have definitely known about the attack. Kenichi said that they would have fled beforehand. The knight agreed. Kenichi told the knight that he wanted to ask him to look into this, and then added that it seemed as if he had forgotten something important. At that moment, Anima intrudes into his thoughts. Kenichi realized that he had completely forgotten about her. The woman immediately ran to meet him. Anima ran to Premura and said that she was so glad that everyone was okay and the daughter of the head of the Maru company. Premura said that Kenichi saved her. The girls were surprised that Kenichi and his group had just left for Anima, but had already returned. The Beastman replies that as he had already said, the master's car without horses is as fast as the Beastman's legs. Suddenly, Anima notices Lutika. The woman says that there is even such a child here. If her daughter were alive, she would be her age. Kenichi asked if Anima really had a child. The woman answered yes. She said that her daughter died during the epidemic. This child was from a man she spent only one night with, about 10 years ago. Kenichi thinks that in this world, the medical level is low, so the mortality rate of children is high. At this moment, the Beastmen were simply delighted with the master's better food. Kenichi said that girls helped him today. The girl with dark hair said that they only peeled the vegetables. The other girls were happy about the soft and tasty buns and said that they didn't even need soup. Kenichi thinks that in this world, bread is so hard that people are used to dipping it in soup. Today, everyone liked the food again. Anima was feeding Lutika at that moment. Kenichi thought that Anima saw the girl as a dead child and without noticing it, began to take care of her. The girl does not seem unhappy, so they left them. After breakfast, the men began to clear the castle completely again. They even planned to dig up all the vegetables from the garden and take them with them. Kenichi thinks about how much cargo has fit into his inventory, so he wonders how much more he can fit. At that moment, the grandfather magician was watching him. The man turned to Kenichi, sighed, and said that if the nobility found out that he had such a large inventory, he would not be pleased. Kenichi told the girl that if he remained silent, no one would know. Grandfather replied that he had no intention of speaking. But Kenichi could not force anyone to remain silent. Kenichi understood that no one could keep silent. However, time could not be turned back. He will earn while he has the opportunity, and if something happens, he will have to flee. Finally, they decided to move out of the castle. First, 9 girls need to be taken to their villages. Kenichi then asks Buttercup what village she is from. The girl replies that she is from Urup village. The adventurers say it's quite far. Kenichi asks how far it is. They tell him it's about 75 leagues from here, or 120 kilometers. Kenichi asks Buttercup that if she wants to go back, he can take her. Buttercup starts shaking his head. Anima hugs the girl and tells Kenichi that she was probably sold due to the family's lack of money. Kenichi thinks that Dandelion doesn't deny it, so Anima is probably right. Her parents sold her to merchants, and the bandits took her from the merchants. That's probably why she's here. Kenichi tells Anima that they are taking the girls home now, so there is no time to cry. Anima wipes her tears and says that she understands. Kenichi sits down next to Buttercup and asks if she is going with everyone to Dalia. The girl nods positively. Kenichi says it's time to go for a lap. No matter how much you drive, the rugged terrain never ends. They left the castle and drove along the roads between the cities through the villages. Before leaving, they sent one anthropomorph to the city to report the victory over the bandits. This gave them time to tour the villages. As we approached the city, the girls disembarked one after another. They all asked to be dropped off further away from the village, all in order to continue living their previous lives in peace. He gave them 1 gold coin each so that they could live for 2 months. Anima told Kenichi that he was being generous to everyone. Kenichi replied that they had suffered at the hands of bandits. He thought they deserved some money. Anima replied that she had never heard of anyone doing that. Premura said that the man would be treated like a hero when he came to Dalia. Kenichi laughed and told her not to flatter him because it did not suit him. Premura replied that it suited Kenichi very well since he wasn't driven by fame. Kenichi said exactly that. He just wanted to live a quiet life without excesses. But why did everything turn out this way? Finally, they arrive at Dalia's. The truck stopped at Premura's house, where Maru stood at the gate. Premura ran out to her crying father. They hugged. Maru told his daughter that he was so glad she was safe and sound. The other villagers were surprised that the owner's daughter was saved. Kenichi thought everything was fine. Suddenly, one of the anthropomorphs said that they had defeated Shagu and his bandits. He demands that the one who laughed at them come out. The villagers said that they couldn't have done that and maybe they just ran away from them. They were lucky to be unharmed. The man got angry and asked Kenichi to get Shagi's head. The man then shows the head and asks that it is Shagi's head. And what do they say about it? Then the villagers were surprised and said that they were very cool and that it was really the leader of the bandits. Kenichi thought that he couldn't say that everything was resolved yet, because he had to inform the Adventurers Guild. After a while, the Anthropomere threw Shagi's head and told the girl administrator that it was the head of Shagi, the leader of the gang. They could look as much as they wanted. They were then asked how many more heads they had. The anthropomorph replied that there were 52. The male administrator replied that it would take all night to check each one. Kenichi then turned his attention to the knight. The young man said he was a knight named Nospel. He wanted to see the guildmaster. He was asked to wait here for a moment. The young man tells Kenichi that he is going to meet with Count Asclepius tomorrow. Kenichi asks if he will really report the noble's connection to the bandits. The young knight agrees. Kenichi replied that they were counting on the young man, since it was not so easy for them, common people, to talk to the upper class. The young man replied that Kenichi could rely on him. Then the administrators began to examine the heads. All the guild workers began to check the gang members' ads. Naturally, there are no cameras in this world, so they compared the features of the bandits' faces with their portraits. There were times when the reward could be reduced due to personal animosity. That's probably why Nyakero treats the guild with disdain. However, thanks to the knight, respect for them was high. With a person from a noble family, everything goes very well. The inspection of all heads ended, and as a reward they received 1,750 gold coins, about 115 gold coins per person, and plus the money from the sale of things collected in the bandits' lair. Kenichi will divide equally. And for the fact that he prepared the weapons and cooked the food, 14 people gathered and decided to give him 80 gold coins. Money in any amount is needed. Kenichi asks Anama if 5 gold coins will be enough for her. The woman says she won't take anything because she didn't do anything. Kenichi says she helped them. He asks her to take at least 1 coin. The woman thinks for a moment and then says that she did cook, and she also wants to look after this child, so she will take the coin. Kenichi then gives the remaining girls 1 gold coin each. They ask if they can really have a whole gold coin. Kenichi says that they need money to find shelter and work, so they should take this money. If there are problems, they can go to Anima or Grandpa. The girls beam with joy and agree. Kenichi thought that he had just arrived in the city, or rather, in this world in principle. Premura also returned home safely. The city gates have already closed, so it would be necessary to find a place to spend the night tonight. He comes to the hotel where Aelia meets him and says that she heard how someone similar to a man destroyed a gang of bandits. Kenichi said it was someone else. Of course, that's a lie. If everyone found out he had a large sum of money on him, it would be a real pain. Then Aelia approaches Kenichi and asks the man if he remembers his promise to make her his mistress. Kenichi replies that he does not recall such a thing. It seems that Aelia guesses that he is now flush with money. Aelia said that it was cruel and she was just a toy. Kenichi apologized to the girl and told her to keep the change. Aelia said that she can't handle it this month, so she asks him for at least a little. Kenichi asks for a little and says that he will have to pay extra. Then Aelia wants to say something, but notices someone. At that moment, Buttercup grabbed the young man by the clothes. A night had passed since they had defeated the bandits and returned to the city. Everyone had gathered again at the Adventurers Guild to sort out the treasures. They decided to sell the weapons and armor in the same shop where they bought the equipment. He goes into the shop and asks the merchant if he will buy the weapons from them. The man agrees. Kenichi points to the pile of weapons and says that this is all. Equipment confiscated from bandits. If we take into account that from about 150,000 yen, then it comes to about 7,800,000 yen. It turns out to be quite an impressive sum. They say that among the traders there are many who profited from this, and thanks to this the market has grown to its current size. The valuables that Shaga collected were decided to be sold to Maru's company. Carpets, ceramics, and decorative swords. These goods would be bought by the nobility and the rich, and let the furniture stand in the girls' hardware store. And the bandits' 100 gold coins were also divided among everyone. They sold everything and got 178 gold coins. They divided it among 15 people, and each person was left with 11 gold coins, and what was left he gave to the girls. He tells everyone that the guild reward will have to wait, so they will gather later. Kenichi walks down the street and thinks that the girls will be able to find a place to work, so it's time to go home. At that moment, Buttercup was following the young man. Suddenly, the young man stops and Buttercup crashes into his back. A man approaches a girl and asks her why she follows him. Yesterday, the girl followed him to the hotel and stopped there, and in the morning she follows him around. The man doesn't understand what she wants. The girl said that she wants to be with Kenichi. The man asked if the girl was not better off with Anima. The girl replied that the man's food was delicious. He points to the exit from the city and asks if the girl has heard that he lives in the forest. Buttercup answers in the affirmative. The man says that magical wolves and insects live there. The girl agrees. Kenichi adds and says that he won't be able to follow her. The girl agrees. Then the man says that there are snakes there. Dandelion agrees. Kenichi sighs and thinks that he, however, sees no reason to refuse. So he decided to live in the forest with Dandelion. After some time, they come to Kenichi's house and the man says that they have arrived. Buttercup was very surprised and said that the house is very beautiful. Suddenly, something rustled in the bushes. Buttercup got scared and hid behind Kenichi. Suddenly, a forest cat jumped out of the bushes carrying a mouse in his teeth. Kenichi was happy and stroked the cat. Buttercup said she was scared. Kenichi replied that the forest cat does not bite, so the girl should not be scared. He asks her if she will try to pet the cat. The girl started shaking all over. However, she then tried to pet the forest cat and started smiling after she succeeded. Then they go into the house. Kenichi says that since the girl will be living here, they should get a bed. The girl starts shaking her head. Kenichi asks if the girl doesn't want to, then where will she sleep? Buttercup says that she will sleep with Kenichi. Kenichi was surprised, and when he noticed Buttercup's sad look, he said that it was not because he did not like her. Then he said that they would sleep together. Buttercup agrees. Kenichi thinks that since she was unexpectedly sold by her parents, she must have been in shock, so she needs love and care. The man asks her if she wants him to teach her to read, write, and count. The girl agrees. The man then gives the curry retort and bun to the girl and says that they will try it after dinner. Buttercup tries the dish and says it's delicious. Kenichi replies that he's happy for the girl. He could have a child about the same age. For starters, he'll teach her to write and read and also count, so she can work. Having received a great reward, everyone celebrated the victory. However, at the same time, there was a rumor that someone from the nobility had been deprived of their family name. The knight was promoted and given a small territory. Having received the highest praise, he accepts new residence. Kenichi was only worried about the consequences of a suspicious nut he ate before the battle, and his life returned to the fact that Maru and Premura came to his house. Exactly a month has passed. The young man opens the door and sees Anima there. He said that the woman was coming here for the first time, and that it was rare for anyone from the city to drop in. The woman replied that it was scary to come here. He then asks the man if he could give her Buttercup. The man says that she is not some kitten or puppy. At 12 years old, people already start working. The girl already has the right to choose who to live with, so it is up to her to decide. Anima turns to Lututik. The woman said that she would be able to learn to trade and she would definitely not be bored anymore. The woman offers the girl to live together and engage in trade. Buttercup replied that she wanted to stay with Kenichi. The woman was surprised, but said that if she felt bad, she could come to her whenever she wanted. Buttercup agreed. Anima then leaves and Kenichi realizes that it was a shock for her, so he doesn't know if she's okay. However, this is Dandelion's choice, so he has no right to say anything. Then he calls the girl to go to breakfast. Buttercup stayed with the man, but in the city he heard that the nobility wanted to find him. People at the market don't like rich people, so they keep quiet. But everything will probably close soon. How could it be otherwise? They saw the truck, even the excavator, and how he carried everything away with it. You can't force people to keep quiet. He decides to start preparing for his departure. To begin with, Kenichi collects all the marigolds. Then he took down the fence and removed the marigolds. He put away all the solar panels and switched to a diesel generator. That way he could run if something happened. After some time, the man comes to Maru. Maru told the man that he was glad to see Kenichi. He would like to repay the debt for the equipment with things obtained on the hike. Maru said that the man was giving away valuable goods when they owed him. Kenichi said that the man had only borrowed money to make that trip possible, so as a merchant he had to keep his word. Kenichi then gives Maru a drawing of a new hand car. He is confident that Maru can handle it. Maru is surprised and says that he is not comfortable accepting this. Kenichi says that it is okay. Kenichi asked Maru, the girl who was held hostage by Shagi's bandits, if they had found work. The man agreed and told Kenichi not to worry about them. He had been told that they were doing a good job. Premura asks Kenichi if he understands that he needs to worry about himself more than others. Kenichi asks if the girl really means the nobles. He heard about that rumor in the city. The man said that without him, they have nothing to worry about. Premura asks Kenichi if he really plans to leave the city. Kenichi says that he is just considering it. Premura asks if it might be worthwhile to come to the palace for an audience once and hear their side of the story. The owner of this land, Count Asclepius, is not such a bad man. Kenichi said that if they knew he was a powerful mage and ordered him to be captured, they would not be able to stop them. Premura said that Kenichi was right. Kenichi thought that Maru and his daughter helped him a lot, but he thinks that by saving Premura, he has repaid his debt, so it's time to go. After some time, he comes home. He tells Dandelion that he has decided to leave this place. If he stays, he might be kidnapped by the nobles and forced to work for them. He asks the girl what she will do and whether she will go to Anima. Buttercup replies that she wants to stay with Kenichi. The man says that they will sleep under the open sky until they find a place to live. Buttercup agrees. Kenichi thinks that she can't be left there, having only taught her to write and read a little. He thinks that she's better off with Anima, but since Latudik herself decided so, he won't interfere. Since that's how it's going, he'll prepare for tomorrow's departure. All the furniture and dishes need to be disassembled and either thrown away or put into inventory, as well as the fence with marigolds. He bought a mountain bike for 100,000 yen to get around. Nowadays, people drive trolleys, bicycles, in the city, so he can probably come up with something saying that this is his unusual option. Well, if he finds a place to live a measured life. He specifically chose the one with a 2-speed engine because there was motor oil for it on the Shangri-La. He's more concerned about the house and whether it will fit in the inventory if the truck fits. He screams for the house to go into inventory if the truck fits. He screams for the house to go into inventory. Suddenly, the house disappeared and appeared in the inventory. The inventory was counted as part of the house, but the foundation also disappeared along with it. Kenichi tells Buttercup that they are going to ride a motorcycle now, so she should wear this helmet. Buttercup agrees. They set off. Kenichi turns to Buttercup and tells her to put her feet on the ledges on the side and hold on to him. The girl agrees. Kenichi thinks that's great. While they're riding, Buttercup shouldn't move. He says it's time to go. Suddenly, a forest cat appears. Kenichi tells the cat to take care of himself too. And then he says goodbye. Kenichi heads west, toward the road that connects the cities. There's no need to hurry. He'll be traveling at 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. If there was one regret, it was that he couldn't say goodbye to the Maru family and all those who had helped him. However, it would have been a difficult parting, and he wouldn't have wanted to involve them in my escape. That was as it should be. Then Kenichi saw a cat next to him, who ran along with the motorcycle. Kenichi said that they were leaving here and how could a cat leave his native forest? Kenichi asks the cat if he really wants to go with them and if he is sure. The cat starts rubbing against the boy. Kenichi buys a clothes container and covers it with wood-look self-adhesive paper so it won't be as noticeable and attaches it to the back. Kenichi turns to the cat and says that he can't make him run after the motorcycle. If he wants to go with them, he'll have to sit in his box. The cat instantly jumps into the box. Kenichi looks at the cat and hopes that he won't fall out of the box. However, he is a wild animal. He won't get hurt if he falls from such a height. So they set off on their journey. Kenichi thinks that they will have a road surrounded by trees. It will be good if they get to a place where there is water, a lake or a pond with a good view. He wonders if he will be able to live his measured life this time. The money is already there. He can go a long time without opening the inventory to sell something. If he does not stand out, then no one will suspect him of anything. You need to try to use local money and buy local products. Another way to live a new life is to mine minerals in the mountains and sell them to Shangri-La. There is an excavator and tools. You just need to earn more than you spend on fuel. And he also heard about another person who also came from another world. But he didn't want to meet him. However, he has a lot of time to think about everything. Suddenly, he notices a familiar carriage. Kenichi catches up with the carriage and greets Fuyo, saying that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Fuyo remembers Kenichi. Kenichi says that he was able to become a merchant. Fuyo is very happy and then asks where Kenichi is going. He asks if this is really the popular trolley and then asks who the girl is. He also notes the cute forest cat. Kenichi says that this is his own trolley, and the girl and the cat are his true friends. They are heading to their destination. Fuyo says that he wishes the man a good journey. Kenichi thanks the young man and leaves. Kenichi says that it is the blue sky and white clouds that can be seen between the leaves of tall trees. It will work out somehow, despite the fact that he has no final destination. So the uncle, the girl, and one animal began searching for their new home. After some time, the young man buys a fishing rod and catches fish. Buttercup is happy that there are a lot of fish in the river. Kenichi catches a fish and says that it has very beautiful scales. In the previous world, they were called rainbow trout. He puts it in his inventory and is surprised that it is called that. He understands that he needs to fish some more. Even though he is fishing leisurely now, he, Kenichi, is an uncle who has suddenly moved to another world. Its ability is to sell and buy goods on a site that is connected to the past world, called Shangri-La, an inventory that can store a huge amount of things. To survive in the new world, you need money. So he decided to use the Shangri-La site and sell goods at the market. Meeting with different people with anthropomorphs, trading was successful. However, problems happen. They were able to successfully save the daughter of a major merchant, Premura. But since this happened in front of all the city's residents, the nobility is now looking for him. Buttercup was happy that Kenichi had caught fish again. They had to leave the city, taking with them the orphan Buttercup, whom he would free from the hands of bandits and the forest cat. After all, it was more fun in company. They were only on their way to finding a new place to live. Finally, dinner with freshly caught rainbow trout and buns is ready. Catching fish and eating meatball soup by the riverbank. And that seems like a measured life. They enjoy the delicious soup. Buttercup said that all of Kenichi's dishes are delicious. Lately, Buttercup has been eating a lot, and as she says, she is 12 years old. But for her age, she is quite small. Kenichi thinks it's time to find a new place. So now they are on the shore of a motorcycle 100 kilometers from Dalia. According to people passing by, there is a city 5 or 6 kilometers away. It's called Estrantia, but it won't be possible to lead a measured life in the city. I would like to know the situation around the city. It's a pity because I had to carry the house all the way here. Then he gets an idea and buys a drone with a camera for 20,000 yen. The forest cat and Buttercup didn't understand what he was talking about. Kenichi wonders if he can launch it and check the landscape of the nearby area. He launches the drone straight into the sky. Buttercup was happy that it was some kind of magic and he was flying cool. Kenichi agreed and said that this was the maximum height of the flight, about 100 meters. He thought that you can see quite a large area. At first glance, this is a river flowing into a lake. There is a small village nearby and a castle nearby. So Astrantia. Kenichi then realizes that there is a waterfall there and they can drink water there, so he calls Buttercup and the forest cat. After some time, they approach the shore. Buttercup said it was very beautiful. Kenichi agreed that it was a very nice view. He decided that they would set up a second camp here. They will try to dig a garden closer to the source of the waterfall, and you can even put a toilet. They have already left the possessions of the Dalia nobility, so you cannot worry about them catching up. He wishes the supreme gods to forgive him and help him. Now he takes the house out of the inventory. Suddenly, a whole house appears. Suddenly, Kenichi hears a meow. He realizes that the forest cat has come all the way here. Kenichi realizes that the forest cat needs to at least come up with a name if he is going to continue living with them. He asks Buttercup how about naming the cat. Well, Buttercup says she thinks it's a cute name, but why that name? Kenichi says it feels like velvet. Buttercup started to scratch the forest cat and said hello to him. Kenichi said that he didn't know if he understood or not. Already at night, Kenichi thinks that tomorrow he will have to install solar panels and plow the garden, and again he will have to resort to an excavator. The only problem left is diesel fuel because it is not sold on Shangri-La. He currently uses expensive kerosene but would like to find a cheaper option. He once saw on TV how waste oil was converted into biodiesel. He will try to study some materials on this topic. Then Buttercup asked what the boy was doing. Kenichi replied that he was reading a book. Buttercup was surprised and asked what she wanted too. Kenichi said that the letters are different from those in this country, so she won't be able to read. Buttercup said that she wants to learn to read the boy's language too. Kenichi then buys a book with illustrations for 500 yen. The man said that he would first draw her hiragana with transcription. Buttercup opens the book and begins to read the beginning of the story syllable by syllable. Buttercup ends up immersed in her studies. Kenichi installed a toilet, a bathtub, and solar panels. Almost everything is like it was in the previous house. All that's left is to make a vegetable garden. Suddenly, Kenichi heard a rustling sound in the bushes. He turns around and sees something attacking him. Kenichi asks if it's really Mare. He says that if he had been a little longer, he would have shot her with a crossbow. The girl says that it's unfair to leave them so suddenly. Meyer said that it was difficult to trace the scent of the forest cat and the boy's cart. Kenichi asked if that was true. If she could find them by scent alone, then they would not escape the anthropomorphs. Meyer shows a duck and says that the prey will never escape from her. The man realized that the girl had been following him, but what would she do now? Meyer replied that she would live with him. Kenichi agreed and said that she would get food herself, and he would send her to the city for shopping. Anthropomorphs have good legs, and Meyer is an excellent hunter. In addition, Meyer knows how to cut up carcasses. Moreover, she is very hopeful. Buttercup was distracted and said that Meyer had arrived. Meyer was delighted and told Lutek that she would now live here too. Lutek was very happy. Then Meyer suddenly notices such beautiful pictures in Lutek's book. The girl says that even she understands, even though she can't read. Kenichi understands that few people can read, so they can sell books with pictures. But stories from the past world won't do. Kenichi asked the girls if they knew any fairy tales. Buttercup said she knew a fairy tale about a forest elf princess. A forest elf princess one day falls in love with a human, a prince. However, both elves and humans were against it, and the princess was almost killed, but with the help of elven powers, she was able to escape with a human, and they lived modestly in the depths of the forest until the end of their days. The mermaid-like concept is relevant here too. He will try to make 12 pages and use screen printing and sell for about 5,000 yen. Since then, while tending to the garden and studying biodiesel, in his spare time he drew illustrations and thought about ways to print the book. Then he decides to try printing. Meyer asks Kenichi if he really knows how to make books. The man then uses a rotator to print. He draws on special paper, puts it in the rotator, and uses the seal. The book cover was ready. Meyer and Liutik were very happy. Buttercup picked up the book cover and said it was really cool. Mira turned to Kenichi and said she wanted it too. Kenichi then says that now they need to collect the printed sheets and there should be 12 of them. He buys a home hot glue machine for 5,000 yen. He sets the pages in the machine and glues them together. After a while, the book really did work. Meyer and Larutik were happy. Kenichi says that everything is as he expected. There are 12 books in total. He hands Meyer her book. Meyer turns to Dandelion and asks what is written here. Buttercup starts reading that a long time ago, deep in the forest, there lived a beautiful elf. Meyer said that Buttercup is so young and can read letters. Kenichi comes out and thinks that he was so fascinated by the seal that the sun is already so high. The man thinks that it turned out well, so he can collect the fairy tales of this world. Also, today is very nice weather, so he should take care of the garden bed. Suddenly, he notices a boat approaching. Kenichi sees several people and thinks it is an attempt to break in. Kenichi takes out his crossbow and asks the men who they are and what they are doing here. The man in the boat asked Kenichi to stop and told him to put away what he was holding in his hands because they lived in that village on the other side. Kenichi realized that it was a fishing village, and there were 2 men in the boat and an anthropomorph with them. Kenichi said that he was a merchant and had the right to live here. The man agreed and said that they thought there were bandits here and decided to check. Suddenly, Well came up to Kenichi. The anthropomorph screamed and asked why he had a forest cat with him. The man asked what kind of forest cat it was. Kenichi picked up Well and said that he was a family member. The anthropomorph said he believed the man. Forest cats don't usually get attached to people. Kenichi can't be a bad person. The man was surprised and said that if the anthropomorph says so, then so it is. He would like to introduce himself. The man says his name is Curtin, and he lives in Exora village. He used to work in the abstract as a government employee. He is very pleased to meet the merchant Kenichi. Then, after talking with them, Kenichi returns home. Ludic asks if everything was okay. Kenichi answers positively and says that they were people from a neighboring village. They didn't want a bad person to be here, so they came to check. There are children of Dandelion's age there. Kenichi sold them a blanket and a book. Meyer said how dare they, since they actually had a forest cat living with them. Kenichi thought that for a mere human, he was quite a luxurious pet. Kenichi asked Miara if anything had changed after he left Dalia. Meyer tells that the Knight of the Nospel family asked for the hand of the merchant Maru's daughter. Kenichi thought that he helped defeat the bandits. Since he proposed, it means they will become one family. She married well. If he had been in Dalia, he would have been able to attend a ceremony. Miara watched Kenichi as he pondered. While researching plants, Kenichi puts the plant in his inventory. Then he goes to the guild in the city and finds out how valuable it is. Then Mayar jumps on Kenichi. The man says that he is collecting herbs and a girl is in his way. Mayar says that Dandelion is not here. Then she stands up and shows herself to the man. Kenichi thinks that the question arises whether he has a measured life or not. Kenichi left Dalia and settled down on the riverbank to continue his goal of living a calm and measured life. Suddenly, a man in a protective suit jumps out of the building and says that he is very hot. He throws off his suit and jumps into the water. Kenichi emerges and says that it's as hot as the sauna. He built a shed he bought in Shangri-La and tried to make biodiesel. All the necessary ingredients can be bought on the website. He was able to study both the method and the instructions. If he succeeds, he will be able to use vegetable oil instead of diesel fuel, which will be 10 times cheaper. So he would be able to use the excavator and other machines. It was dangerous to use some very toxic substances, but it should get what he needed. He decided it was time to try. He starts the engine and says it runs without problems. Now we can get down to business. By the next day, he had been making fuel for several days, using 50 liters of canola oil in 2 batches and could get about 90 liters of biodiesel. However, because of this, apparently, Buttercup became completely despondent because he left her alone as he was constantly busy with the diesel. Kenichi asks Buttercup not to be so angry. Buttercup says it's too late. Kenichi says he'll buy the girl a new book. Kenichi suggests the girls go to Austrasia. Mayare is surprised and asks if this is really true. The inventory has accumulated many carcasses that Meyer caught, and at the same time they register in the Adventurers Guild. Kenichi asks Meyer if she has been to Austrasia. Meyer answers that she has been there several times. Then they reach the city. She says that the man sees the eastern gate of the city, so they will arrive soon. After some time, they arrive in Austrasia. Kenichi saw what the city looked like. Kenichi thinks it's smaller than Dalia. There are also handcars here. First, they need to register with the Adventurers Guild. Dandelion raises her hand and says that she will go too. Mia replies that she will go too. They reach the Adventurers Guild. Kenichi says that the guild here is a little smaller than the one in Dalia. The man thinks that in this world, the guild is like a job board, so it is always full of people. Then he goes to the reception desk where the receptionist greets the man and asks what he is interested in. Kenichi thinks she is quite curvy. This is very important. He wonders if all the girls at the counter have to look like that. Kenichi says he wants to register. The girl asks him to wait a bit. She goes into another room and then returns in a hurry and addresses Kenichi, apologizing. She asks if he really defeated the Shaga bandits. Kenichi asks her not to speak so loudly. The girl apologized and said that he was just so surprised. Kenichi thought that he was forgiving her for her cute face. Then the registration was over. For 2, it cost 2 silver coins. That is about 100,000 yen. The man gives the girl the money. Then he asks if she has an encyclopedia of plants. The girl agrees and says that she has 2 small silver coins. Only it will be a small book for beginner herbalists. Kenichi is handed a book for beginning herbalists. The girl says that she also buys medicinal plants. Kenichi looks through the encyclopedia. Kenichi says he would like to sell some herbs, but this one with black and red round berries is not listed in the book. For such a fresh stem, the guild gives 1 small silver coin per branch. The man says he is willing to sell. For 1 stalk, they get 5,000 yen, for 10,000. Collecting herbs also brings good money. He sold almost all the other plants. Animals were also bought or butchered, and in the evening, they took the finished meat. Now there is money. It is possible to go and have a bite to eat. They go to the market. The man buys the girl's food, but they don't like it. Kenichi thinks that the soup is without broth and the bread is hard. It's very tasteless. There are no problems with the economy, but there is a problem with spices and food in this world. Dried tuna broth and a little pepper. Kenichi says that it's a little better, but the girls were very happy and said that it's delicious now. Kenichi thinks that there is still a lot of time left after lunch. He has finished shopping, so he is thinking about where else he can kill time. He then notices a hardware store called White Flower Garden. Kenichi thinks it smells like treasure, so they decide to go in. They go inside and are greeted by a woman who says she hasn't seen the man and girls before. Kenichi says he came from Dalia. The woman says that if he came from Dalia, he probably knows the old magician. The man agrees and says that they know each other. The woman said that he wrote in a letter that he had made a brilliant discovery, and she thought that maybe he was delirious. Kenichi thinks that by speaking, he did not treat him very well either. The woman asks the man what he wants to buy. Kenichi notices a strange device on the table next to the woman and asks what it is used for. The woman was surprised that he was interested in such things. Then she said that she would show him how to use it. The woman took out a jug of liquid, and Kenichi realized that this smell was of a strong drink. Into the wide funnel. Wine. Into the funnel in the middle. Clear water. On the right, very thick wine is dripping. And on the left, the same clear water is flowing out. Kenichi asks if it really separates the ingredients into specific ones to add to the wide funnel. The woman said the man was smart. The ingredient the man poured into the middle funnel would come out on the left side. Kenichi said that if he added water, all the water in the wine would go away. The woman agreed and said that alchemists use this. Kenichi thought that he didn't know how it worked, but this is not what they call a magic tool. It contradicts the laws of nature. He realizes that he can safely make biodiesel with it. The man tells the woman that he will take it. He then asks the woman if she has anything interesting. The woman shows a book with magic spells. The man finally sees the magic spells. This definitely sounds like something fantastic. A man asks a woman if he can really learn to use magic by reading it. The woman says that without magic powers, no matter how much you read, there is no point. It is expensive, but after reading it can be sold for a decent amount. Kenichi thinks it's worth 10 gold coins. He thinks about how there is no magic in the other world and whether it's time for him to learn it. He says he's buying it. The woman thanks him for buying the book. Books with magic spells need to be registered, so the man will not be able to pick it up until a week later, so he will have to wait. Then the man says he will take more medicine. The woman asks the man if he really likes to have fun too and if he wants to join her. The man gets scared and asks the woman not to joke like that. Kenichi then thinks that they've seen enough of the city while waiting to register with the guild, but they're still tired. They might as well go back once. But Dandelion is glad to be in the city for the first time in a long time. He needs to find a place to rest. Suddenly, he notices something in the gateway. He knows his bandits and a familiar man he met recently. It seems his name is Crouton. Behind him, he notices a little girl and, is this really his daughter? It seems he is surrounded by 3 bullies, who are the classic trio. Kenichi wonders what to do. Suddenly, Dandelion pulls him up and asks the man if he will help them. Kenichi notices that face again, and the man is weak in front of those eyes. Kenichi realizes there is no way out. He turns to Mayare and tells her that if anything happens, he will rely on him. Mayare tells her to leave it to him. First of all, they can't see his face, so he needs to find a mask on Shangri-La. This design made his forgotten schoolboy soul shudder. 7,500 yen is expensive, but the moment has come when the man needs to buy it. Kenichi tells Buttercup that she can't be seen by the hooligans, so she should hide. The girl agrees. Kenichi puts on the plague doctor mask. He thinks that it seems that Buttercup did not appreciate his cool mask, but it does not matter. He turns to the bullies and orders them to stand still. He asks how they dared to attack a good man and his child. The bully asks Kenichi if he really wants to get some too. Kenichi says that if they don't leave now, they will get hurt by his magic. He lights a lighter and the bullies think it's magic. Kenichi then buys some explosive firecrackers and launches them straight at the bullies. He asks them how they like his magic, and next time they will explode inside them. The hooligans ran away and begged for help. Suddenly a crowd gathered. Kenichi took off his mask and said that people had come running, so they had to run. He turned to Crouton. At this point the man stood frozen and his daughter were shaking with fear. Kenichi realized that he had probably overdone it a bit. After some time, Crouton said that mask was Kenichi. The man said it was good that they were not hurt. The man thanked Kenichi for saving them. The girl turned to her father and asked who it was. The man said that he had made the picture book. The girl bows and thanks the man for the book. Then she meets Dandelion. The man says that he knew he was not a simple person, but that he as a mage is very surprising. Kenichi asked him not to tell anyone. Kenichi said he was more interested in who attacked them. The man replied that he knew them from his time as a civil servant. After he arrested them, they still take revenge on him. Every time they see him in the city, they attack him. Even though his daughter was with him today, Kenichi said that if it was dangerous to be in the city, why don't they move? The man said that he had thought about it, but they had nowhere to go. Kenichi said that right near Dalia, they were calling people to Baron Noswal's lands. He knows the Baron, so if they wanted to, he could write a recommendation. If the man is a former civil servant, he will definitely be given a good job. The man says that this is all very well, but they need to think about it for a while. Kenichi thinks that it probably takes determination to leave his native land, because it won't be as easy to move as in his previous world. Then he notices Buttercup and the man's daughter and thinks that they have become friends. Buttercup said that she also helped make this book. The girl answered that she could also help if she made a new one. Buttercup then runs up to Kenichi and says that Marie wants a new book, and then asks Kenichi if he'll make a new one. Kenichi says that if that's the case, they'll make one. Buttercup is very happy and tells Marie that he promised to make a new book. The man is surprised and asks if Kenichi really made that book. The man agrees and says that he sometimes draws for himself. Kenichi thinks that Buttercup has never had anyone close in age around her, so maybe this is her first friend. After some time, Buttercup's new friend, Marie, began to come every day, and Kenichi, at the request of Lutek, began to make a new book. Surely the girl really wants to show the new book to her friend. And the moment came when all that was left was to print the book. Suddenly, the man saw Curtain running in a hurry straight to Kenichi's house. The man dropped a huge bag of coins. He started to pick them up and asked him to help him. Kenichi asked the man what happened and asked him to explain it to him. Curtain said that Marie has a fever and is very ill. He asks Kenichi if he could sell him medicine for that money. Kenichi was surprised and asked what Marie was sick with. Curtain said that according to the village chief, there is an epidemic going on among the children now, and very few are recovering. Kenichi goes into Shangri-La and thinks that he needs to buy some antipyretic first. But it's probably something more serious, and antipyretic alone won't help. Suddenly Buttercup calls him and asks what happened to Marie. Kenichi says that Mari has a disease that only children can pass on. Despite her worries, she shouldn't visit her. Buttercup turns to Kenichi and tells him to save Mari. Kenichi thought about how he wanted to help her, but he didn't think there was any serious medicine for Shangri-La. He turned to Curtain and said that 1 gold coin was enough for him. He gave him some pills and said that it would reduce the fever for a while. He had to give her the pill alone. Curtain thanked the man. Then he thinks about a disease that cannot be cured by medicine, so maybe magic will help. He thinks about healing magic and remembers the granny from the hardware store. Kenichi says that he knows a granny who might be able to heal with magic. He will call her, so Curtain should prepare the payment. Curtain should also give Marie the medicine. Kenichi then turns to Meirei and tells her that she will be in charge. Buttercup shouts that she will go too, but Kenichi tells the girl to sit with Meirei. It's dangerous to leave the house during a child pandemic, so he prepared food for several days for 2. Kenichi gets on his motorcycle and rides away, and Buttercup stays behind and hopes for the best. Then Kenichi rides up to a familiar grandmother, and after a while he comes to Curtain and Marie. Grandma examined Marie and said that, as she thought, it was Shikori fever. She then turned to the man and said that he seemed to have been given medicine, and then asked what it was made of. Kenichi replied that it was willow. The woman replied that the man knew so much. He had recently bought magical items, so maybe he was also into alchemy. Kenichi said something like that. The woman said that this fever was difficult to cure with magic. Kenichi asked what to do then. The woman answered that on the way to Exora there was a river. Its source is a spring. It is located deep in the forest. There are flowers growing there, the seeds of which help with fever. Chicory. Kenichi asked about the spring in the forest and said that he would collect them. On his special handcar, you can get there in no time. The woman said that there was no arguing. However, it was the territory of the elves. The woman said that if he met them, he has to get out of this somehow, and one more flower will be enough. According to the woman, elves are a rather closed people. It's not like in fantasy, where everyone is friends with each other, but Kenichi would like to meet them. Curtin says he will go too. The flowers grow 20 kilometers from the village deep in the forest. However, it becomes more dangerous there in the evening and at night. The anthropomorph says that in that case it wouldn't hurt him to join them too. Kenichi thinks that he can feel confident with the beastmen. It even seems that he and the anthropomorph are enough. But as a father, he cannot sit still. There is no time to waste because it is already dark outside, so he needs to go out quickly. After some time, the anthropomorph carried Curtin on his back and tells Kenichi that his transport is going very fast. Kenichi is not far behind them, and this magical light is also cool and hands are free. Kenichi bought headlamps for 4,000 yen. Kenichi said it didn't matter. They had to get the seeds for the medicine quickly. Then they came to a stream, and then to a pond. They look at the flowers that are in the water. Kenichi says that it is night. The flowers close into a bud, but their goal is not the flowers, but the fruits. They cannot be reached from the shore, so he buys a large rubber boat for 30,000 yen. He activates the boat. Curtin asks Kenichi what it is. Kenichi replies that it is a rubber boat. Curtin is surprised that he even has a boat in his inventory. The anthropomorph tells Curtin that they are very lucky that this gentleman came. Curtin agrees. At this time, Kenichi swims away to get flowers. He takes out a fruit that was located on a white flower and then cuts it. Kenichi throws the fruit to Curtin. Curtin was happy and thanked Kenichi that his daughter would be saved. At that moment, the anthropomorph shouted that something was approaching them. Suddenly, eyes appeared from the bushes, and then Well came out. Kenichi exhaled and said that it was Well who had come, and then asked him not to scare them. He approached the cat and began to pet him, and then asked if he really had followed him. Well meowed affirmatively. Suddenly, Well felt something. He turned around and started looking somewhere. Kenichi turned to Well, but the cat suddenly hissed. The anthropomorph told everyone to be careful because something was approaching again, and these were animals, of which there were quite a few. In an instant, they were surrounded by a huge number of wolves, baring their teeth. Kenichi realized that they were black wolves, so it was time for revenge. He immediately took out his weapon. He turned to Neonius and Curtin, and then told them to use their weapons. He then handed the fruit to Curtin, and told him to quickly take the fruit to Marie, and he would hold off those magical black wolves. The man shouted and said that Kenichi was crazy, and the anthropomorph told Mr. Kenichi not to talk nonsense. Kenichi said that he can use magic, so he and Well are more than enough. He told them to run faster because all their efforts would be in vain if Curtin did not manage to bring the medicine. At that moment, Neonias repelled the attack of one of the black wolves. Curtin did not understand what to do, but at one moment he noticed one of the black wolves rushing straight at him. Curtin plunged his sword straight at him. Curtin plunged his sword straight into the wolf. Kenichi fought off the wolves and told Curtin to move because his daughter's life was on him. Curtin closed his eyes and then Neonius took Curtin and ran away from the wolves. Kenichi smiled and thought that anthropomorphs had the ability to develop such speed that wolves would definitely not be able to catch up with them. Kenichi turns to Well and says that they are also going to not lose. Kenichi opens the inventory menu and says that he is summoning an excavator. He uses deadly technology, excavator whirlwind and excavator strike, iron claws that bring death itself. Whoever gets hit by them is a dead man. Claws that fall from the night darkness and bring death. Whoever gets it from them is dead. Then the wolves run away from the boy and the forest cat in a hurry. Kenichi got out of the excavator. Then he puts the excavator back and then laughs and says that black wolves are not so scary anymore. He is not even afraid of arrows and bullets. Suddenly, Well grabs the young man by the collar and pulls him aside. Kenichi asks the forest cat what he was doing. Suddenly, he sees an arrow in the tree. Kenichi realized that he was just sitting there and there was an arrow. The wolves can't launch it, so that means there is a new enemy. Kenichi realized that the light was reflecting so strongly that it was impossible to see. He squints and notices golden ears and long hair. In front of him stood a man who was saying something to him. Kenichi realized that they were elves. Kenichi thought it was right before his eyes, like something out of a fantasy. Now Kenichi understood why the black wolves left so suddenly. Kenichi raised his hands and told the elves to stop, adding that he did not want to hurt them. He then turned to Well and told him to stop grinning. One of the elves looked at the boy and the cat carefully, then turned away. After a while, he looked at the boy and threw something to him. Kenichi caught it deftly and discovered that it was a ring. The elf tapped his finger, indicating that the man should put it on. Kenichi put on the ring, but did not understand anything that was happening. Suddenly, the elf turned to the man and asked him if he understood what he was saying. Kenichi was surprised and said that he understood him and that the ring automatically translated languages. The elf asked Kenichi where he was from, why he came here, and whether he was going to destroy the spring. Kenichi said that it was not like that. His friend's daughter was sick with Shikori fever and the cure needed the fruit that grew nearby. The elf shouted at the man not to dare lie. Suddenly, Well stood up for Kenichi and put his paw in front of him. The elf asked why this cat was defending such a man. Kenichi did not like this phrase. Kenichi scratched the back of his head. He said that he really came for medicine. As soon as they collected one, they were immediately surrounded by wolves. The child's life was at stake, so the fetus was with the beastmen who ran to the village because they were still lucky. The elf youth looked at the bodies of the wolves and asked if it was really he who had knocked down those wolves, and then asked what was glowing in his hands and if he was a magician. Kenichi said that he is part mage, but he is also a merchant, so he asks the elves if they want to buy anything from him. He says spices, salt, and that he has everything they want in his inventory. The elves were surprised when they saw the package in the man's hands. The elf asked if the man really had salt. Kenichi agreed and said that he had many other unusual things, such as knives or books for the elf children. Elf rereads the book about the elf princess and asks if people still think it's a beautiful story. Kenichi asks if it's really not. The elf says that for a start, people don't live as long as elves, and also they won't be able to have children. The elf, unable to live in the village, among people, eventually returned to the forest. The elf said that for them it was only a short time ago. He realized that Kenichi was a traitor. He must be a good man since the forest cat trusted him. However, their village was short of salt, so if he agreed to a deal, they might forgive him for invading their territory. Kenichi thought that, to be honest, he was wondering how Maru was doing. But Curtin had the medicine and Granny was with them, so there was nothing to worry about. If he got the excavator, he could definitely distract them from escaping. However, they know how to use magic, and they don't want any problems in the future, so it's better to obey now. Kenichi agrees, and the elf tells him to follow them. After some time, they arrive at the elf village. Kenichi is led into a house where an elf man invites him to settle down. In front of him was a rather majestic elf man. He said that he had been told that Kenichi was a merchant. He had probably already been told, but they were short of salt. If it was not too much trouble, he asked Kenichi to sell them some salt. Kenichi agreed and said that it was he who disturbed the elves, therefore, and also as an introduction he offers to give it to them for free. The elf replied that this would not work. To complete the deal, both scales would need to be filled, but they had little money. Kenichi wondered what to do, since it was obvious why the elves needed money in the forest. Kenichi asks how about exchanging the salt for this ring. An automatic Elvish translator is definitely a rare thing, so he won't hesitate to receive it. The man says that if Kenichi doesn't mind, then they have a deal. Kenichi hands over a bag of salt. The elf man says that this salt is enough for all the families and they are now saved. The man thanks Kenichi. Kenichi then says that he still has many things, such as knives, spices. The elf replies that they are used to doing everything on their own, so he will only accept Kenichi's good intentions. The man then says that it is dangerous at night, so Kenichi can spend the night in the village. Kenichi asks if this means that they believe his words about not intending to irrigate the spring. The elf smiles and says that they saw it in their eyes. Kenichi doesn't quite understand if they are lying or not, but maybe there is some kind of magic of exposure. He doesn't mind spending the night, but he's feeling hungry. Kenichi asks if he can make a fire in the village square and cook himself some dinner. The elf allows it and says that they probably don't like their food. After some time, Kenichi comes to the square in the village, where everyone was having fun and where it was very lively. Kenichi thought that the others had already been explained everything, so they weren't looking at him askance. He couldn't disturb the general atmosphere, so he went to the side. He sat down and thought about what to eat. He thought about making noodles, since he hadn't eaten them for a long time. He takes out instant noodles and onigiri, which he will heat up in a steamer. Suddenly, an elf girl comes up to him and asks Kenichi what he is doing. Kenichi says he is making himself dinner. He is a foreigner, so he does not want to disturb the other elves, so he asks them not to touch him. The girl looks into the pot and asks what it is. Kenichi says he is steaming a cereal dish. The girl said that she would heat it up with magic, so could she try it too? Kenichi asks if the girl is sure, then gives her one onigiri. The girl tries it and says that it is very tasty. Kenichi is happy and says that it is very tasty. Kenichi is happy and says that even elves understand how delicious it is. The girl then asks what Kenichi is eating. Kenichi says it is wheat flour dough stretched into strips. The girl replies that she wants to try it too. At that moment, Well was eating cat food. Suddenly, several more elves approached Kenichi and said that he smelled a pleasant aroma, so they asked him to give them some too. Kenichi said that for a reserved people, they were very persistent. He exhaled and said that he could share, but he would have to pay. He asked them to show him edible forest herbs and mushrooms. The elf girl said that she would go and collect them. Then Kenichi asked if the elves were eating enough. They didn't understand what the man was talking about. Kenichi said that from what he saw, they weren't eating much, although that was probably all they had. The elves said that everything was fine. The girl replied that they had tea. Kenichi asked what it was. Then he was given a drink in a glass. Kenichi thought it was red and smelled like chocolate. He tries it and feels a bitter taste. Kenichi asks if it is by any chance some kind of sacred drink that cannot be added to anything. The girl says that they do not think so. Kenichi then says that he will not be embarrassed then. He adds sugar and stirs it. Then he gives the drink to the girl and asks her to try it. The girl tries it and starts screaming, asking what it is and why it tastes so deep and sweet. All the elves ask the girl to let them try it. Kenichi thought that with sugar, bitterness, and sweetness became one. He feels nostalgic for the taste of the past world. The color is a little red, but it's hot chocolate. Now it's clear where they get their nutrients from. Then the village elder came up to them and asked what all the noise was about. A girl came up to the headman and told him to try it too. The man did not understand what the girl was offering him. The man tasted the drink and then shouted at Kenichi what it was and what he had put in it. Kenichi replied that he had only added sugar. Kenichi said that if the village chief didn't mind, he was willing to exchange the ingredients of this drink for this sugar. The elf girl asked if this was really true, and then suggested that the chief agree to the deal, since they would be able to drink such a delicious treat every day. The village chief says that, however, this taste will destroy the core of the elves, so he cannot agree. All the other elves began to rebel. In the end, the chief was unable to resist the villagers who were under the total influence of chocolate. Is this really the destruction of the core that the chief spoke of? Soon after the hot chocolate party, he became fully involved with the elf company. He couldn't help but capture such a fantasy world on camera. He also took a photo of a forest kitten. And that's how the night went. The next morning, the village chief thanked Kenichi for selling them the salt so the man could come back. Kenichi said that he should thank the elves. He lives by a lake into which a river flows. If they need anything else, he will prepare everything, so they can come to him at any time. The elf girls say that this means that they can pay with them instead of money. Kenichi thought that despite the situation, he wanted to know what happened to Mari. He summoned a motorcycle and said that they had to hurry. After a while, the man ran into the house and apologized to everyone for being so late. He asked how Mari was. Everyone was very surprised. Mari was just snoring at that moment. Kenichi realized that, apparently, there was still a lot of trouble ahead. Suddenly, Nine just rushed to Kenichi with an apology. The man said that as an anthropomorph, he was ashamed that he had left him in the forest. Kenichi said that Mari's life was more important. He could use magic, and he also had the great forest cat with him. 101. Then Kenichi asked the woman how Mari was. Granny replied that everything was fine now, and it was all thanks to the chicory fever fruit that Kenichi had gotten. Curtain then bowed and thanked Kenichi, saying that she would now be in his debt. Curtain's wife stood next to him, crying and thanking the man. Kenichi thought that he had no intention of saving people, but the life of a child was at stake. After a while, Miara shouted about black wolves, a spring, and elves. She asked why the man had not invited her to come with him. Kenichi replied that he couldn't afford it and wouldn't leave Dandelion alone. He couldn't allow Meyer to fight. Meyer became sad and said that she agreed. Buttercup thanked Kenichi for saving her and Mari. Then Kenichi looked at the girls and said that he did not come empty-handed. After some time, Kenichi prepared the elf drink. Meyer was very happy and said that it was very tasty and what a wonderful drink it was. Buttercup added that it was very sweet and a little bitter, but tasty. Some time passed, and Marie was fully recovered. Curtain and his family decided to move to the safe lands of Baron Nospoke. While everyone was getting ready, Kenichi wished Curtain a safe journey. The man thanked Kenichi. Then the man gave Buttercup a book and told her to give it to Marie. The girl took the book and ran to Marie. Then Buttercup runs up to Marie and says that she and Kenichi made this picture book. He says that he is giving this book to Marie. Buttercup pulls the book to the girl and wishes her luck. Marie cried and agreed. The girls hugged each other and cried together. Kenichi distracts Curtain and gives him a letter and a pouch. He says that it is the promised letter of recommendation. He points out that Curtain worked as a government employee and 5 gold coins as a parting gift. Curtain said that they owed Kenichi so they would never forget it. Kenichi replied that it was because Marie played with Buttercup. Curtain and his wife then nodded to each other and then handed Kenichi the rings. Curtain asked Kenichi for forgiveness and said that this was the only valuable thing he had. Kenichi was surprised and asked if these were really wedding rings. Curtain replied that they had bought them at a hardware store a long time ago. He asks Kenichi to accept them even though they are worth less than a gold coin. He also told Kenichi to consider it as collateral for the money he borrowed from him. Curtain then gets into the carriage and thanks Kenichi, then wishes him luck. The carriage started to drive away and Marie looked out to see Buttercup. Buttercup noticed the girl and ran to Marie, wishing that she would not get sick. Marie cried in response and wished the same for Buttercup. Kenichi noticed Dandelion's upset look. He took the camera and showed the girl a photo of the elf. Dandelion said that it was a very beautiful drawing and that these girls had long ears. Kenichi said that Dandelion was right and it was them. He made a deal with them and got a ring that allows him to communicate with them. Then he showed her a picture of a forest kitten. Buttercup said that the kitten was so round and cute. Meyer said that even she saw a forest kitten for the first time. While Meyer was sniffing the camera, Ludic became amused by this. At that time, a girl was walking through the forest and laughing maliciously. She was walking through the forest and saying that she would not forgive Kenichi. Suddenly, after these words, Kenichi felt something. Premura, when she saw Kenichi, at first thought that he was an unremarkable middle-aged man with a small shop. However, he turned out to be quite pleasant to talk to and literate, as if he was from nobility or worked as a government employee. Also, his jewelry was made with a complex technique unknown to her. She thought that he was no slouch and seemed to have an inventory. Because she met Kenichi and his father, their trading company Maru began to have unusual goods and became more famous among the nobility. The new means of transportation he proposed helped them gain a family name and a calling. Maru told Premura that Kenichi had helped them raise their status. He needed to be properly thanked. Premura agreed with her father and thought that she should make him hers at any cost. However, he was principled. There was a beast girl spinning around him, and she, having stepped over herself, was taking a bath and sleeping in the same bed. But he did not even reach her. Despite this, Kenichi saved her from the bandits, so Premura decided that she would go with him until the very end. Although he looked after the injured girls and children, among the many women, she probably ranks first. Once the answers about the incident are finished, she will need to get herself together and meet Kenichi again, because he is probably waiting for her. However, when Premura came to the place where his house was, there was nothing there. Premura did not understand why everything had disappeared, because there was a small house here as well as a fence and a vegetable garden. She does not understand why everything has disappeared. Kenichi and the girl left without saying anything to her. Premura felt some pain and, as if she had gone crazy, began to laugh. She walked through the city and showed no emotion. Kenichi flinched at that moment. The woman from the hardware store asked him why he was twitching so much. Kenichi replied that he thought he saw someone's murderous gaze. The woman asked the man why he had come to town today. Kenichi replied that he wanted to take the magic book and ask about cutting up the beast he had caught. He was recently attacked by a large fanged bear, but it was huge and he couldn't butcher it. It would be better to ask the Adventurers Guild for help. The woman agreed and said that they would pay well for the skin and fangs. She also said that Kenichi's book had already been registered. Kenichi thought the cover was strong and reliable, and there was even some kind of stone on the back. The woman said it was a magic stone. It and the spells in the book were connected, so without the stone they wouldn't work. Kenichi said that he didn't quite understand, but that meant that the spell book couldn't be simply rewritten. The woman agreed and said that magic stones were carried by monsters, but sometimes they were sold in the Adventurers Guild. That's why he could buy everything himself. Kenichi thought that the alchemy item he recently bought from his granny was successfully used to make biodiesel, so he hoped that this book would be of some help to him. Then he decides to sell the accumulated healing herbs in the guild, then decides to start cutting up a fanged bear. But before that, to admire the beauty, the guild member saw Kenichi and asked what he had brought this time equals, probably either for sale or to cut up. Kenichi agreed with the man. Kenichi said that there was quite a lot, both large and small, so he couldn't get it here. The man realized that Kenichi had equipment, so he invited him to go around the other side. Kenichi then took out the loot. The man is surprised and says that it is a fanged bear and is quite large. Kenichi said that he has 12 more black wolves. He would like to ask the man to cut up the meat and magic stones because he wants to sell the rest. The man agreed. He gives the sword and says that he is going to work. He would not want to miss such a large catch. He needs to butcher it as soon as possible, because such an opportunity has presented itself. After some time, he comes back to the man and tells Kenichi that here are his 4 gold coins and 2 silver coins, as well as the magic stone and meat. He wipes his face and tells Kenichi that he still has a big catch waiting for him. Kenichi thanks the man and says that he will come to him again. He warned Lutik and Mayara that he might stop in town, but if he hurried, he would make it home. Just in case, he left them some quick meals. Kenichi realized that it was getting dark quickly here, but suddenly someone grabbed his sleeve. He turns around and sees Premura there. The girl is out of breath and says that she finally found Kenichi. Kenichi looked at the girl questioningly and asked why she was here. Suddenly, Premura threw herself into the man's arms. She screamed and said that Kenichi was a cruel man because he left so suddenly. She did not expect this from him. Kenichi said that if the nobles caught him, he would surely bring trouble to their company. Premura screamed and said that whether he would bring them trouble or not was up to them to decide, not the man. Kenichi said that the company had jealous competitors. They could take advantage of his departure and say that they did not think that he was such a person. Premura said that thanks to Kenichi, they were able to get a family name. Kenichi asked the girl not to get so excited. The man thought that arguing on the street was not the best idea. He needed to move to a quieter place. He tried to find a cozy cafe. After a while, they sit down at a table in a local cafe. Kenichi thinks that naturally there are no cafes in this world, so he had to go to the snack bar at the inn. It's better than a diner, especially for Premura. She herself hasn't even touched the cookies and keeps telling him how he helped the Maru trading company. Kenichi wondered if he really helped them out like that, although it seemed to him that it was the other way around. According to the girl, his goods became very popular among the nobility, and they rose in the eyes of the upper class. Thus, their sales increased. Premura also said that Kenichi saved her life. The man thought that it was because he did not even say goodbye. He said he had heard a rumor in town about Baron Nosbalk's offer. Premura said she had received it but had refused. Kenichi was surprised and thought that the Baron's dignity had definitely been shaken, and he wondered if he was okay. Baron Nosbalk would not just throw around suggestions. Premura said that people in town also accused her of being cold. Kenichi said that he acknowledged that leaving without warning was not very proper, but he just didn't want to cause her trouble. Kenichi didn't give the girl a chance to say anything and continued by saying that he was to blame. He understood everything, so the girl should go back to Dalia and tell everyone that he was okay. Premura jumped up and said that she would not return because she had already said goodbye to her father, and said that she would not return until she convinced Kenichi to return. Kenichi thought that Maru was unhappy. He was saying that he was not going to go back. Premura said that she would stay here too then. Kenichi asked the girl how she knew he was in Astrantia. Premura replied that she had asked the Merchant Guild and the Adventurers Guild to check if the man was registered in other cities. Yesterday, when the information came in, they found his name on the lists, so she came right away. Kenichi said that this is how the girl got here and looked for him everywhere. He looked at her tired look. Kenichi said that he heard the girl, but the city gates would be closing soon, so they should go to his house outside the city. Premura said that she would not go. Kenichi didn't understand what the girl meant. Then Premura said that she wouldn't leave here today until Kenichi made her a woman. Kenichi was very surprised and asked the girl to stop. Premura asked the man to stop addressing her formally. Kenichi said he understood and then saw her hands turning red. The man then called the waitress over. The girl said that she was listening to the man. Kenichi replied that he wanted to stay here, so he asked if there was a free room. Premura was surprised. After some time, they came to the room. Kenichi said that the room was very nice, and Premura agreed with his words. The girl immediately began to untie the bandage around her neck. Kenichi asked the girl if everything would really happen like that right away. Premura replied that if it didn't happen, the man would run away again. Kenichi said that it was not like that at all, and he had no intention of running away. Premura undressed and said that, to be honest, she would like to take a bath. Kenichi nodded and told Premura that she was already beautiful. Premura became embarrassed and said that she hadn't washed for quite some time. Kenichi approached the girl and took a lock of her hair. He smiled and told the girl not to worry. He also said that her hair was a little damaged, so she could use restorative products at home. Premura thanked the man. Then they moved closer to each other and their lips touched. Kenichi wondered if he was doing the right thing. The next morning, Kenichi returns to his home. Ludig and Mayere recognized the sound of the motorcycle and realized that Kenichi had arrived. Kenichi said that he was back. The girls were happy, but Mayere noticed someone and asked the man who was sitting behind her. Maya recognized the scent and realized that it was Maru's daughter. Kenichi thought that considering what happened last night, he brought her here as one of his close people. But he let his hands go, but it's too late to regret it. He, as a man, must pull himself together. Now the lives of two girls, one child and a forest cat, are on his shoulders. However, at first glance, Premura is beautiful and modest. But she hides courage and leadership qualities that she inherited from her father. Perhaps in the future, this girl will become a real headache for him. Yesterday, he hadn't forgotten about contraception. They had discussed everything and decided that until they had settled everything, they wouldn't have children. Suddenly, Premura asked Kenichi what it meant. He left her in the city and took Mayere with him. Kenichi told Premura to be calm, because Meyer had tracked her down. Meyer said that no prey would escape her. Premura asked what about Dandelion. Kenichi said that she was a child, so he couldn't leave her on the street. Premura said that she understood and forgave Kenichi for today. Buttercup asked if Premura would really live with them, since the room would be cramped. Kenichi realized that something seemed to have flared up between Dandelion and Premura. The man told the girls that they would be living together, so they should try to be friends. Buttercup told Kenichi not to bring anyone else. Kenichi told Buttercup not to worry. Premura asked Kenichi why there was such a pause and whether it was possible that the man had another girlfriend somewhere. How long could he be so kind? If he helped everyone left and right, there would be no money left. Kenichi said that he understood that. Suddenly, Well appeared. Kenichi told the cat that there was one more person. Premura looked at the cat. She asked Kenichi if she was really worse than the forest cat. Kenichi took well and said that it was not so because the cat also came running after him. After some time, Kenichi decided to cook the bear meat he took from the guild for dinner. First, he had to cut it thinly and simply fry it. The smell of fried meat attracts empty stomachs. As seasonings, he will add ready-made sauce bought at Shangri-La. Finally, the fried fanged bear meat was ready. Kenichi tried it and said that the meat was quite tough. The toughness can still be forgiven, but the smell is still bear. It seems to be the same taste as in the local area. Meyer said that she didn't like bear meat. Kenichi said that he didn't know that beastmen had food preferences. Kenichi looked at Dandelion and Premura and thought that the two of them didn't like it either. Kenichi thinks that a solution needs to be found. They use a meat mallet to reduce the toughness, and to soften the flavor, he will prepare a sauce using a secret recipe. The first ingredient is soy sauce, which you need red pepper and black pepper for, as well as dried tangerine peel. Shangri-La peel is sold as a traditional Chinese medicine. Then Meyer said that the spices now masked the smell of the game. It was much easier to eat. Kenichi noticed Premura and said that if she didn't like it, maybe he could cook her some other meat. Premura said that it was okay. Kenichi added that they had a lot of bear meat and also needed to eat the black wolf somehow. Premura said that there was a lot of meat. Fried is still edible, but if boiled, will it be tasty enough to cook? In the past world, he did not try boiled bear meat, but it is worth looking for good recipes. For example, the smell of lamb in curry almost disappears. So, with the increase in the number of residents in the house, some difficulties arise. For example, with taking a bath. Ludik and Meyer wanted to take a bath with Kenichi. The man told them there was only one barrel, so someone would have to take a bath tomorrow. The man said they wouldn't have enough water, although they could make a bigger bath. Shangri-La only has a gas boiler, and there is also a plastic tub, but it is no different in volume from the barrel. In the end, he bought another metal barrel. Meyer and Ludik started taking baths together, but they wanted to take baths with Kenichi. Kenichi asked why he bought a second one then. They made a lot of noise, but he only allowed Buttercup. Kenichi said that 3 people were too crowded, so the girl should learn to take a bath alone as soon as possible. Buttercup refused. Then Kenichi noticed Premura and told the girl to stop hiding. Premura said that she was very shy. Kenichi said that then the girl could take a bath alone after them. In the end, Premura took a bath with Meyer. At the end, you need to pour water on Meyer and wash the foam off of her. That's all. Afterwards, he watches the picture of the female population of the house drying their hair at the fan heater. But today among them was a girl with golden hair. The next day, he spent the morning trying to find ways to cook the bear meat they had in abundance. Kenichi realized that it was pretty good. He felt a slight aftertaste, but it was quite tasty. He beat the meat and then left it overnight in milk, fried it and then added it to the curry. For now, he will put the finished meat in the inventory. If the girls do not like bear meat very much, then he will only have more left. The second recipe is to also beat the meat and rub in spices and herbs, then leave it to marinate, if for frying, then in brandy, and if for boiling, then in wine. While everything is marinating, he will do the gardening. Then he will fry the steaks or cook the pot-au-feu. Kenichi tries it and thinks it's perfectly cooked, exactly in the style of European cuisine. There's an aftertaste, but only a little. When there's time, you can just prepare all the meat and leave it in the inventory. He fed everyone curry for dinner. Dandelion and Meyer said it was delicious. Kenichi thought that both of them really liked him. And how come they still haven't gotten tired of curry? But he himself is sitting with a plate in his hand. He is unrivaled even in another world. Premura asked if even such meat with a smell could be cooked so deliciously. Kenichi said that a slight aftertaste remained, but it was quite good. Although it has a special smell, other animals have it too. Premura said that in the hands of a man, any meat turns into a wonderful dish. Kenichi told the girl not to flatter him. However, it takes a lot of time and a little sweat. This time he had to spend money on milk and strong drink, spices, and herbs. However, there are wild animals, just like in his ideas about measured lives. Mir said that the vegetables are not bitter at all, as if by magic. Premura said that even though they were bought at the market, they are not bitter or astringent at all. This can be removed by immersing them in water with settled ash in it. No need to boil, just leave overnight. As she said before, Kenichi is a very smart person. Kenichi smiled and thought that it was even a bit awkward after such words. Maybe he could use magic to remove the bitterness in vegetables or even cook in general. Then the man thinks about magic and realizes that he completely forgot about the magic book that he bought from his granny. There's a lot written here, but the gist of it is to concentrate the magical power from the entire body into one place. He wonders if it's really possible because he doesn't understand it at all. For example, for the magic trick Flame of Wrath, you need to gather all the power in your fingertips and palms. It is better to act than just sit and guess. He summons the flames of wrath and asks her to burn his enemies before his eyes. However, nothing happens and Kenichi realizes that he has no magical abilities. He has simply spent a lot of money for a useless book. Buttercup asks the man to look at the book. Kenichi then asked Premura if magic items were selling well. The girl agreed and said that there were many avid collectors, even those who could not use magic. Kenichi thinks that if such collectors exist, then it would be easy to find a buyer. It's a bit of a shame, but he'll have to sell the book. Suddenly, Buttercup began to cast the Flame of Wrath spell. The man asked the girl to stop and not cast the spell. Suddenly, something caught fire in front of the girl. Kenichi got scared and said that they needed a fire extinguisher. He bought 3 fire extinguishers and told Premura to take the extinguisher and repeat after him. He tells her to pull out the yellow stick and squeeze the black handle. The girl asked if she was doing it right. Eventually, the fire was extinguished and Buttercup stood there looking very surprised and holding a book. Kenichi realized that the fire had engulfed a fairly large area. But if you looked closely, only the surface had been burned, and the wall itself was intact. He wasn't very strong, but an ordinary person certainly wouldn't have survived. However, first of all, he looked at Buttercup, who was shaking all over with horror and apologizing to the man. Kenichi took Dandelion by the shoulders and said that it was very cool because Dandelion could use magic. The girl was very surprised. Meyer was happy and said that now they would kill the fanged bear. Kenichi said that no one would buy the burnt skin. Meyer agreed. Suddenly Buttercup fell down and her whole face turned red. Kenichi turned to Buttercup and asked what was wrong with her. Premura says that she probably got sick from too much magic. It often happens to children who use it for the first time. She tells Kenichi to put her to bed. Taking turns, they monitored the girl's condition, and by morning the temperature had completely subsided. There are no good doctors in this world, so you need to be more careful about your health. She's not very cheerful, but seems to be healthy. However, she does not want to eat at all. She must have lost all her appetite during the night. He prepared something and said that now he would give her what people always eat when they have a cold. The man takes out canned peaches. Buttercup asked what they were. The man replied that they were fruits and sweet juice. They are usually eaten when you are sick. Buttercup says they are very sweet and delicious. The man replied that since they had opened it, everyone would have to try it. Mir was delighted and said that it was a bit like an apple. Premura replied that it was very tasty and so sweet. They must have used a lot of sugar here. Kenichi said that it is possible to extend the life of products not only by salting, but also by candied. The girl said that only the nobility can afford this method. Kenichi said that the girl is right and in this country its purchase and sale is in the hands of the authorities. Still, Kenichi can't stop being amazed that Buttercup has magical abilities. Premura said that she was definitely born with them. Kenichi asked Premura if there was a place where he could learn magic, like a school or something. The girl replied that there was an academy in the capital. After graduation, one could become a holy mage. Kenichi told the Utik that if she wanted, she could go to a magic school, since there was a dormitory there. Premura said that the academy was attended by either nobility or the children of the biggest merchants, so it would be hard for a child from a lower class. Kenichi said that he could imagine that. Buttercup said that she didn't want to leave Kenichi. Kenichi said that he wasn't forcing her. However, she had to tell him what she wanted. However, with magic, she could feed herself even as a girl. Premura said that only with fire magic could she be sent back to the battlefield. Kenichi thought that there was another option, to become a mage's apprentice for a fee or to buy books with magic spells. However, there is an important condition in all of them. Kenichi realized that Dandelion would be able to heat the bath. Premura laughed and said that this was the first time she had heard of such a way of using fire. Buttercup said that she would try it. Kenichi thought that she could be trusted. If everything works out, you can heat water much faster. This is the most harmless way to use magic, just right for a measured life. When the wall was repaired and the barn was rebuilt, also setting up barricades against fanged bears and other large predators, Premura said that she wanted to trade in Astrantia. It happened while gathering herbs. Kenichi said that Premura was the daughter of a merchant, so she was probably registered with the merchant guild. Premura agreed. Kenichi said that he had nothing to sell now because he had left almost everything in Dalia. However, the only new things he had left were the books with pictures. Premura was very surprised. She started reading them and said that they were just wonderful and would definitely sell out. Kenichi thought that he wouldn't explain how he made them. Printing technology hadn't appeared in this world yet. In the end, on Premura's initiative, they settled on bear meat pot au feu and apple boiled in sweet juice. The girl came up with the idea for apple in juice after canned peaches. Kenichi hopes that Premura will succeed. Premura was so eager to trade in Astrantea that the very next day he began teaching her how to cook. She decided to make a pot au feu of bear meat and apple in sweet juice. It is necessary to prepare the vegetables and meat in the evening and use the remaining ingredients in the morning. If you compare it with what is sold in the city, it is heaven and earth, as if from a restaurant. Apple and juice also smells great, sweet and tasty. They will definitely buy it. From tomorrow onwards, Premura will cook for herself. She asks Kenichi to lend her the magic coal stove. Kenichi agrees and says he will explain how to use it. Premura claims that she will soon save up and buy her own stove, so she only takes it on credit. They put all the things in the inventory and he took Premura to the city gates. He never encountered monsters on the way, but it was a bit dangerous to walk. Kenichi said that he would pick Premura up in the evening. In the evening, Kenichi had already arrived at the market. He saw Premura standing and talking to the beast girls. Premura noticed Kenichi and ran up to him. Kenichi asked Premura if she had sold everything. The girl agreed and said that the young man's dishes were the most delicious in the city. No one could resist an ordinary shop that sold restaurant dishes. Kenichi then points to the anthropomorph and asks who she is. The girl says it's nice to meet you and her name is Nyamina. Premura said that she was alone, so she was getting too much male attention, and she decided to pay Nyamina for her protection. The woman said that she could not refuse such an easy job. All she had to do was look at men with an evil look and receive one small silver coin a day for it. Kenichi opened the inventory, and Nyamina was very surprised since she hadn't seen the inventory for a long time. Premura told Kenichi that she had been thinking about it and that she wanted to invite Nyameno to dinner. She wanted to maintain a good relationship with her. Kenichi agreed and said that she had been protecting her. Then they go outside the city. Nyamina is surprised and says that this is the same transport. She did not think that it could go in the forest at such a speed and without even moving your legs. Kenichi asked to leave this without comment. Then they arrive at the house, and Nyamina says that Premura and Kenichi live in a beautiful place. Premura says that she was able to sell that book for 2 small silver coins. Kenichi said that there were 18 books, a little less than 1 gold coin in total. Premura agreed, and then said that she was asked for more ideas for books with girls. Nyamina added that this is all men think about. Kenichi realized that if things get really tough financially, there is this option. The information is quite important. At this moment, Meyer leaves the house. She is happy to see Kenichi, then becomes terrified and starts screaming. Meyer hysterically asks Kenichi who that woman is and points to Nyaminu. Kenichi replies that Premura hired her, so they will treat her to dinner. Meyer said that she thought Kenichi had a girlfriend again. At that moment, Well came out of the house. Kenichi started to stroke the cat's head. Kenichi said that he was home and called the cat nice. Nyamina was surprised that it was a forest cat. Nyamina said that she understood why the man lived in the wilderness. It was because he had a magic trolley and a forest cat. Kenichi thought that he was glad that the girl was quite honest. Buttercup looked out the window and greeted Kenichi. Finally, everyone was gathered, so it was time for dinner. After a while, the cream soup and soft buns were ready. Nyamina did not understand what kind of white soup it was, but Lutique and Mireille were happy about this delicious soup since they already knew what it was. Kenichi said that he added flour and milk to the soup, so it is white. The other beastmen liked it too, so he thinks Nyamina will like it too. Nyamina tries a spoonful of the soup and says that it is very tasty. The girl said that this soup melts in your mouth and has such a deep taste. Kenichi said that he was glad that the girl liked it, and then said that he forgot about the strong drink and asked the girl if she would like a glass. Nyamina said it was simply delicious. The food was delicious and the strong drinks were too, as if she was in some kind of paradise. Kenichi then asked the girl if she would like to take a bath. Nyamina was surprised and asked what kind of bath the boy was talking about. After a while, they gathered around a barrel of water. Kenichi told Buttercup that she didn't have to hold back. Buttercup stretched her arms out and began to cast a spell. Buttercup used the flame of anger. In one moment, the barrel was surrounded by bright flames. Everyone around was surprised. The explosive power is impressive, but it doesn't last at all. The fire is already so small. Kenichi checks the water and thinks it's already hot. Buttercup was able to heat the bath in 30 minutes faster than if he had heated it the usual way. Kenichi asks if it's okay to use magic that often, even though it's only 2 barrels. But she fainted recently. Premura said that the more you use magic, the faster she can control it. After some time, Nyamina takes a bath and says that she is really bathing in a bath like some minister or noble. She is definitely in heaven. Kenichi asked if it was hot. Nyamina said that everything was fine and that it was simply wonderful. Even if there was a bathhouse in the city, they, the beastmen, were not allowed in. Then they arrived home, and Nyamina flopped down on the bed and said that the bed was so soft and maybe she should stay there. Meyer said that she couldn't because the room would become too small. Nyamina said she didn't think one person would hinder them that much. Meyer said that it was still impossible and she would not let the girl live here. At that moment, Nyamina turned her attention to Kenichi and Lutek. She asked if the man really teaches the girl to read and write. Kenichi agreed and said that reading, writing, and counting would help her find a job, especially since girls don't have much choice where to work. Nyamina said that was true too. A girl without an education can only use her body. Kenichi asks Lutek if she should learn how to trade from Premura. The girl says that she wants to learn how to use magic and she will help the man and go on adventures with him. Kenichi said that, to be honest, he didn't want to fight anyone. Buttercup said that Kenichi could even kill a dragon. Kenichi said not to exaggerate because 3 lives wouldn't be enough for him. Buttercup said that there was someone in the Empire who could kill a dragon. Nyamina said that she also heard this story. The magician killed him with magic. Kenichi asked if dragons were really vulnerable to magic and if there was any benefit from a dragon. Nyamina said meat, fangs, as well as scales, dragon liver, and ambergris. Dragons are like treasure chests. Kenichi asked if dragon meat was tasty. Nyamina nodded. Kenichi said he would like to try it, then asked about the magician and said if he became very rich after killing the dragon. If he was just a magician, then yes. But he was the princess's personal magician, so she took all the proceeds. The princess invested this money in the war for the throne on which the emperor wanted to place his second daughter. Kenichi said that this was intriguing. Nyamina replied that it was an excellent time for the nobility from the periphery or merchants to break into the capital. Kenichi said it was about the Instersende Neubauten house. Nyamina changed that Kenichi knows everything. Suddenly, Meyer jumped up and rushed at Kenichi. Nyamina smiled and said that Meyer must have been jealous. Kenichi said that Meyer was really angry. Liutik and Premura didn't say anything, but apparently the beastman's rival was another beastman. Near Nyamina, Meyer is making a lot of noise, so he better move away. Kenichi then asked Premura how she met Nyamina. Premura said that she was one of the customers. Nyamina said that it was so delicious that she asked for more. Premura said that she thought that she, a girl, should be protected by a girl, especially since anthropomorphs are very strong. Nyamina said that she is 100% confident in her hands. Still, Premura is a good girl. She cooks and trades herself, so she's completely fearless. Kenichi said that her father is also a good trader. Nyamina said that now she understands why. Premura said that Kenichi also sold something and why he stopped. Kenichi answered that he had saved enough, so now he is resting from work and, moreover, he has something to do. Nyamina said that for a merchant he is quite strange. They only think about money, even willing to sell their family for their own benefit. Then she came to her senses and told Premura that she wasn't talking about her. Premura laughed and said that was true too. Kenichi said that, simply put, he wants to live a measured life. The next day, Kenichi stood near a huge rock and was very surprised. He said that up close, it was like a wall, maybe 10 meters high. He was trying to figure out how to climb it. This morning, Kenichi was thinking about how Premura's shop was going smoothly, but what should he do? He wanted to explore new places, but there were monsters in the forest, and he was a little afraid to swim across the lake. Then he remembers that there is a cliff behind the house, and behind it, it seems, a forest. If it is untouched by people, then it is certainly rich in useful herbs. There are no monsters and many useful plants. He decides to climb the plateau, but it is beyond my power. First, he launches a drone and says that we need to at least take a look. Kenichi sees that the forest continues above and does not seem to lead to any mountain. There is no road to Abstrancia, nor any signs of human use of the forest. Kenichi thinks that there are definitely a lot of herbs and leafy vegetables there. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Buttercup. The girl runs up and says that this thing is really cool. She holds a pair of binoculars in her hands. Buttercup adds and says that you can see so far. She asks Kenichi if he was really looking at something. Kenichi says that he wasn't really, but he just wanted to climb. Buttercup was delighted and said that there were so many orange crystals. Kenichi was very surprised. He asked Dandelion to lend him the binoculars for a second. Kenichi saw orange crystals. However, he had never seen stones of that color. He hoped they were worth a lot. Kenichi said they were pretty far away, so they'd probably need a boom lift. Using a laser rangefinder bought on Shangri-La, he found out that the crystals were 12 meters away. Using the boom lift every time turned out to be inconvenient. He decides that the only option left is to build scaffolding, as in the lines. The man decides to get an excavator. First, he prepares the kidney, and then gets the materials for building the scaffolding. Pipes, connections, and more. Meyer came up to Kenichi and asked him what he was doing. Kenichi said that he had decided to build a structure out of metal pipes so that he could climb the cliff. Beyond the cliff, in the forest, there are probably many untouched animals and herbs. Meyer says that she will also help. Lutik also supports Meyer. Kenichi thanks the girls. 325. Then the grandiose construction began. With the help of Meyer and Lutik, the scaffolding was ready in just 3 days. Kenichi said that everything was fine and ready. He called everyone well done. Suddenly, Meyer began to climb the structure deftly. Meyer was happy and said that everything was very high. Lutig said that she wanted it that way too. Kenichi realized that the girl's joy knew no bounds. Then Kenichi realized that it was already evening, so he went to get Premura. After a while, the girls watched the construction in surprise. Nyamina asked what it was. Kenichi replied that it would allow him to get to the plateau. Suddenly, Premura addressed Kenichi. The girl said that she wanted to ask for a long time. There are so many things in his inventory, like these pipes and those soft buns that they eat every day too. Kenichi said that Premura noticed after all. He actually uses magic to bake buns. Premura asked what that meant. Kenichi put his arm around Premura's waist and said that she trusts him less and less now. Then he pulled the girl to him and kissed her. He said that if the girl wanted to go home, she had better do it now. Premura melted and said that she would not return. Kenichi's hand slid further and squeezed Premura's soft form. Suddenly, she called Naiman and said that they couldn't do this at home because she felt awkward. Kenichi asked Nyaminu if such a pretty girl didn't have a partner. Nyaminu replied that she herself turned down worthless men. The next morning, Kenichi asked Premura if they should go to the city. Premura said that she was also interested in what was up there. Nyamina replied that she was also interested. Kenichi asked if it was true that no one had ever been there before. Nyamina agreed and said that no one except a man could build something like that. Except for the Empire's orders, there was no one to level the ground and build stairs. At least, she had never heard of such a thing. Kenichi said that there were many people in the world, it wouldn't hurt for one weirdo to appear among them. Nyamina said that this meant that the man was the first such weirdo. Kenichi thought that he was really weird, from another world after all. Then he said he wanted to collect more crystals. The forest would be used for that, too. Nyamina said they were very beautiful and probably expensive. Kenichi said he wouldn't know until he got them. Then she climbed onto the structure and said that all that was left was to complete the path to the very top. He puts up a board and climbs to the top. Kenichi was very surprised by the beautiful view. Buttercup told Kenichi that she wanted to see it too. Then he helped the girls climb up one by one. Buttercup was very surprised. She said that the lake was in full view. Even the village of Ixora was visible. Nyamina said that they really managed to climb that high. Premura said that everyone was equally surprised. Then they started walking around the new territory. Meyer called out to Kenichi and said that she found something and then called the man. The girl found the moneylenders and said that they were very tasty. Kenichi said that he would collect them and cook dinner with them. Buttercup called Kenichi and said that she had found a red comedian. Nyamina said that she had found a red comedian. Nyamina said that she would also help search, because she had a very good nose. She won't stand on ceremony. Meyer asked Nyamina why she was helping them. Kenichi thought that it seemed he had made the right choice with the plateau. The next morning, Kenichi bought 30 pieces of cut-out dough for Geizo. Premura asked Kenichi what they were. Kenichi said they were thin circles cut out of dough. Kenichi said that they should be wrapped with meat and vegetables and then fried. He decided to make gyoza from the roselles they found while exploring the plateau. He tried making mushroom pasta, but the locals didn't really like the long spaghetti. They have something similar to gyoza, so he probably won't be so disgusted. Then he buys a household meat grinder. He calls Buttercup and tells the girl to wash her hands and put the meat in the device and turn the handle. Buttercup asks what the device does. Kenichi says that it grinds the meat into small pieces and they will come out on the other side. Buttercup did the job assigned to her and said it was really cool and incredibly fun. Then Kenichi gives Premura the task of cutting the vegetables as small as possible. The girl agreed and said what it is. Kenichi said that only the leaves are edible. Gyoza without Chinese cabbage is not gyoza. Although in his parents' house, they sometimes added regular cabbage. For the vegetables and dough, you could use a mixer or food processor. But he decided that it was better to use working hands since they were available. Add minced meat, salt, and a little Chinese seasoning to the chopped cabbage. Also, don't forget the stars of today's dish, the rostoviki, and mix everything well. Then wrap the finished filling in dough. Spread water with a little flour along the edge of the dough, and all that's left to do is fold it in half. In fact, you need to fold it. But this is an easier option. He ends and asks Buttercup if she will do it, and if she can handle it. The girl agrees and says that she will do it. Kenichi told Premura that she can start frying. Premura agreed. After some time, everything was ready and Meyer and Nyamina began to eat everything. The girls said that it was very tasty, and could bear meat really turn into such a tasty dish? Kenichi told the girls to stop eating from the common plate because they wouldn't be able to count how much they had. Finally, everything was ready. Kenichi thought that there was enough for everyone. For lunch, there was only gyoza. But they were made of vegetables, meat, and wheat dough. Almost a complete meal. He preferred to use soy sauce with oil and chili. But the others did not like soy sauce, so he offered them mayonnaise with vinegar and salt. The girls said it was very tasty and the meat juices flowed in the mouth. Kenichi thought he should try it too. Kenichi tries it and thinks that in the form of gyoza. You wouldn't guess that it's bear meat. He didn't even expect it to turn out so well. The mushrooms have absorbed the juice well and are very juicy. You can make the dough thicker and add it to the soup. Premura said it was a great idea. Kenichi thought he should try it in his shop. Premura said that it was quite a hassle to cook, so she needed to hire someone from the city to help her with the cooking. Kenichi realized that Premura thought just like a merchant. He always tried to think of how to solve it himself. But the girl took into account the hiring of people from the very beginning. Premura asked Kenichi what kind of powder he added when cooking. Kenichi said it was dried fish and seaweed, ground into powder. It adds depth to the flavor. Meyer said it made sense now why she sometimes smelled fish in a meat dish. Kenichi said that it was difficult to use dried fish whole in soup because it would give off an unpleasant smell. Premura exhaled and said that no matter how you look at it, you can't make a tasty dish without hard work and good knowledge. Lutek and Premura were gathering herbs on the plateau. Meyer and Nyamina were exploring the forest. Kenichi began to examine the orange crystals that were right on the cliff. He is thinking about how to collect them. Kenichi decides to get a regular jackhammer. It's the kind that's allowed on construction sites to break cement. He buys an electric jackhammer. Kenichi starts to break rocks with the hammer. The man picks up the fallen piece and points it towards the light. Kenichi says that the stone is quite beautiful, but he doesn't remember a stone that was so orange. He places it in his inventory and sees that the stone is called rhodonite. Kenichi realizes that he can't learn anything other than this information. He has never heard of such a stone before. It's time to open the Shangri-La, so he decides to try to learn from this book. He reads the information. Rhodonite or ruby twine is a type of silicate mineral. They are found in manganese deposits. Kenichi wonders if it is really worth it. Only those who understand know the price. You just need to let the Shangri-La site evaluate what you have obtained. He hopes that he will be able to determine the price of the goods. According to the results, this stone can be sold for 200,000 yen. Kenichi was very surprised that this stone can be sold for 200,000 yen. Although, if it were a gemstone of the same size, it would be much more expensive. For example, if compared to diamonds, rhodonite costs quite little. The price tag of diamonds or rubies reaches 100 million yen. However, now he knew that it was worth something, and he had already recouped the cost of the jackhammer. There were still plenty of orange stones left, so was this a great catch? Surely it is the same with rhodonite as with all precious stones. The larger it is, the more it costs. This is excellent. Rhodonite. Estimated value of 400,000 yen. 600,000 yen. Kenichi was happy that the cost was covered with the remainder. Moreover, thanks to him, the money of this world will not disappear into the black hole called Shangri-La. Kenichi thinks that maybe it is worth mining rhodonite on a larger scale, although if he hurries and buys a bigger car and there are no stones there, so it's better not to rush with this. Kenichi threw a stone to Buttercup and said that it was the stone he got from the cliff. Buttercup was happy and said that it was very beautiful. Premura asked how much it cost. Kenichi said he didn't know, so he'd have to ask his grandma at the hardware store. Shangri-La rhodonite costs 200,000, but he does not know how much this stone will cost in his world. If they take a few gold coins for it, it would be better to exchange them for money in the city. Kenichi then asked where Meyer and Niamina were and where they had gone. Premura replied that she did not know, but she thought they would be back by dinner time. After a while, Kenichi poured water into the hot oil in the frying pan. Buttercup was scared, but Kenichi said that Dandelion's magic was much scarier. Then Well came out. Kenichi said that even Well came for the smell of roasting meat. After some time, Meyer and Niamina returned. Kenichi told him that they had been walking for quite a while, so he didn't know how deep they were in the forest. Niamina replied that they were very far away. As Kenichi had said, the plateau went on almost forever, and there were no monsters at all. However, there were birds. She asked the young man to put them in the inventory until they could be taken to the city to sell. Meyer asked the man to put hers in as well. Kenichi agreed and said that he would take one for dinner. In total, they got 3 each. Niamina said she didn't mind. They serve things here that you can't buy in the city for any amount of money. Meyer then hands Kenichi more items. The man asks what they are. The girl replies that they are kaka eggs. They are considered a delicacy and the poultry is also very tasty. Kenichi says that they can't crash. Then Niamina starts screaming and asks what it is. Premura asked the girl what she was saying because she didn't like the bear steak for dinner. Niamina said that, on the contrary, the meat was too tasty now. The girl said that the smell was not wine at all. Kenichi replied that he had added alcohol to soften the smell of game. Niamina heard about the strong drink and said that she had a favor to ask Kenichi. Apparently she wanted to try the strong drink, namely the brandy he used to fry the meat. Kenichi said that it was quite strong, so she should be careful. Niamina was surprised by the aroma. Kenichi then asked the girl how the drink tasted. Niamina said that if she continued to live such a wealthy life, she would not be able to live in the city again. After eating such food, she would not be able to eat what they sell in the city. Meyer adds that the meat is delicious, and she didn't think that bear meat could be cooked so deliciously. Ludic also said that the meat is very tasty. Premura said that with this, they could open an elite shop. Suddenly, Kenichi rushed to Kenichi and asked the man what he had done to her. She says that after such delicacies, she won't be able to live in a city because it's not even her fault. Kenichi asked why she was so clingy and hugged him very tightly. Meyer screamed for Niamina to let go of Kenichi. Niamina told the girl not to worry. She wouldn't take him away. She just wanted him to give her some good food and live nearby. Kenichi told Meyer that they basically needed her as a guard for Premura. Meyer screamed that she couldn't trust Namina. Kenichi asked that this was not so. Premura replied that Nyamina was very honest. Kenichi thought that Nyamina probably only wanted to eat and drink well. Kenichi told Premura that if she didn't mind, then neither did he. Premura pouted and said that she didn't mind, since apparently Nyamina only wanted to eat and drink well. Kenichi thought that he wasn't interested in her either. He could have refused, but for Premura, she was a valuable worker. The girl was good at guarding or hunting. Premura especially needed a reliable protector. Kenichi says that there is no more room in this house, so the girl will have to live in the barn next door. He asks if she minds. Nyamina says that she will only sleep there, so shelter from the rain and wind is enough. Right now, her room is in the attic, like a mouse hole. Kenichi replies that if the girl doesn't mind, she can stay. He promises that he can provide her with food. He then asks the angry Meyer to calm down because she will sleep somewhere else. Meyer was depressed. Kenichi wondered if the shed would really be enough for Nyamina. It was already dark, so he would only be able to get it out and prepare it tomorrow. Then Premura turned to Kenichi and asked if they had any more bear meat. Kenichi agreed and said that there was a lot of it. Premura was preparing food for tomorrow at that moment. Kenichi thought that he would also go to the city with her and sell the birds, and I should also ask Grandma how much the stones cost. The next morning, Kenichi thought that Nyamina had drunk quite a lot yesterday. He would have to ask her about her intentions regarding moving in with them. Kenichi calls the girl. He asks her if she is sure she's going to move in with them. He hopes she remembers what she said yesterday. Nyamina says the drinks were indeed strong, but she was not that drunk. The girl says that she was serious about living here. Kenichi takes out his inventory and says that this is all he has. He builds a homemade house. Nyamina is surprised that it is made of steel plates. Kenichi says that he made it to protect against monsters. Then they go inside. Kenichi says that he puts the bed that the girl slept on yesterday here. Then he asks the girl if she is okay with him renting out the house. Nyamina asks how much it will cost. Kenichi says there is no need to pay if the girl helps Premura all the time. Nyamina is surprised. Then the girl asks what Kenichi was planning there. For him, she was ready to do anything. But did he really want to make her his personal servant? Kenichi asked the girl not to think wrongly. If she was uncomfortable, she could bring one four-legged animal once a month. Nyamina laughed and said that she had already hoped. Kenichi then asked if the girl really didn't mind living in such cramped quarters. Nyamina said that compared to her DOS house, this was like a palace. She didn't have a guarantor, so she couldn't rent a room. He is happy because the problem is solved. It feels as if there is one more villager. Premura interrupted them and asked if they had finished the housewarming party. Kenichi agreed. Meyer was shocked. Meyer said that Nyamina would live in a separate house and sleep in a different bed. Kenichi asked the girl to imagine that there was simply one more villager. Nyamina hugged Kenichi and said that she was ready to fulfill any of Kenichi's whims. Kenichi asked the girl not to bully Meyer, and then turned around and told Premura that it was time to go to the city. He also has business in the city, because he needs to find out the price of the stones he has mined. After a while, they arrive in the city and Premura says that they always trade here. Then they see a crowd of people. The woman told them to open the shop quickly because everyone was already there. Premura replied that they needed a minute and they would prepare everything. Nyamina asked everyone to line up. After a while, Kenichi turned to the woman and asked her why she was buying food in such a big jug. The woman replied that it was for tonight and tomorrow morning. The soup had a lot of vegetables and meat. Moreover, one portion cost only 5 small silver coins. No one else would find such a delicious soup for that kind of money. Kenichi thought that Premura's shop already had regular customers. Tasty and inexpensive. That's the key to a successful business. With success comes the ridicule of competitors. But Nyamini will deal with them. He tells the girl that he will go to the guild. Premura thanks the man for helping them with the cargo. After a while, at the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist girl said that they don't accept minerals. If someone asked for a request to mine rocks, then they would buy them. She says that Kenichi should go to a hardware store. Kenichi thanks the receptionist girl. He then turns to the man from the guild and asks him to cut up the beasts. He thinks that he can sell the stones to the granny at the hardware store. Kenichi greets the woman. She asks him if he brought anything interesting. Kenichi agrees and says that he brought orange-colored stones, and then asks the woman how much she would value them. The woman replies that they will be worth about 1 gold coin. Kenichi realizes that this is about 200,000 yen, and that is how much they sell for on Shangri-La. He tells the woman that he wants to sell them. She then asks about the spell book and says if it helped Kenichi. The man says yes and adds that he didn't succeed, but the girl was able to use 1 spell. The woman is surprised and says that if she is that age, then she must have talent. She asks the man if he wants to send her to the academy. Kenichi replies that they talked about it, but she doesn't want to at all. The woman replied that if she entered the academy, she could at least become the mistress of a large merchant or noble. Kenichi said that he had heard that only such people exist, so it would be very difficult for her to enter. The woman agreed. Kenichi asks the woman if she went to the academy. The woman agrees and says that it was a long time ago. She was very young then. She herself is flattered to say this, but the students of the academy called her the flower of the academy. Kenichi says that according to the words, no matter what she does, standing or sitting, she is like a peony, and when she walks, it is like a lily with its petals unfurled. The woman says that she was compared to a lily. The future mistress of the nobility, she even gave birth to a child. Kenichi asks what happened to him. The woman replies that the nobility took him, and they gave her the money and they haven't seen each other since. She opened the shop with these funds. After all, the issue of inheritance is very acute among the nobility, so it was important for them to control everything. Kenichi asks if she has any desire to meet him. The woman answers positively and says that she has already been given money not to meet him. He was from the family of marquises. Then the woman asks that Dandelion can read. Kenichi replies that he would like Dandelion to be able to learn magic. If there are magic books with fire spells, he is ready to buy them. The woman replies that she will try to find something. After some time, Kenichi walks around the city and thinks that he has sold all the stones, so he will return to Premura. Kenichi notices a young girl. He asks Premura who it is. Premura replies that it is her student. The girl asks Kenichi if he is the lady's father. She says her name is Iris, and she is very pleased to meet him. Kenichi awkwardly says that he is not Premura's father at all. Iris asks if this means he is Premura's husband. She apologizes. Premura says his name is Kenichi, and he is her husband. Kenichi asks if Iris will help Premura. The girl agrees and says that she will teach her cooking and trading, and then they will open a second shop. Kenichi thought that this is a real merchant. Premura is not going to give up. Premura says that in a pinch, they can leave everything to the second bench and Iris. If Kenichi runs away again, she can quickly catch up. Kenichi says that he doesn't think the girl will have to do this, and he himself thinks that she doesn't trust him at all. According to Premura, Iris is the daughter of a civil servant and she is also literate. Iris was given the condition that if she did not find a job, she would be forced to marry. So while looking for a job, she saw a girl who was selling alone. Kenichi thinks that, however, it is not yet noon, and there is only half of the soup left. Premura asks Kenichi if he could borrow another magic coal stove. Kenichi agrees. Premura then asks Iris to listen carefully to the cooking order. The girl agrees. Kenichi decides to leave them because he needs to finish his business. After a while, Kenichi returns and tells Premura that it seems they even sold the extras. Premura agrees. She then asks if she can invite Iris to our house. She needs to be taught cooking and double entry. She also needs to be taught many other things. Kenichi thinks that Premura is going to make Iris the leader and give her all her powers, including teaching others to trade. She is completely different from her, who sells as she pleases. Kenichi says he doesn't mind, but he doesn't understand how they will get there. Naimana says that she will carry the girl on her back. Kenichi says that there was such an option. He thinks that there was a case when a beastman carried him on his back, so Naimana will definitely be able to lift one girl. Thus they return home. Iris was very surprised by Naimin's speed, and Kenichi and Premura just smiled watching them go.